2-4. Inside all the way back.
A responding Broward County Sheriff's deputy can't find any sort of label or luggage tag on the outside of the suitcase, so once the canine gives her the all clear, she starts checking out the contents for any identifying info. From there, she and the other airport employees try to contact the owner.
Just clothing, but heavy. No tag. I mean, there's a holder, no.
Huh?
Yeah, just, no, I'm just saying there's a holder, but no,
Right,
no name.
Just
looks like clothing.
that heavy?
It's a lot.
No.
Maybe it was some homeless person.
There's more than just clothing.
It's all underneath.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you don't want to look in there.
but it's like...
You don't want to look with no gloves on and...
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. But on top, it's all clothing.
Yeah,
there's something heavy, like, underneath the clothing, because there's no way.
This is...
There's no way that's just clothing.
What's the weight? Have a skill.
There's one right here. Should be right there.
This is insane.
77. What could be in there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's more than just clothes. There has to be. It's like having an engine or a piece of motor.
It looks like equipment.
Yeah.
It feels like equipment.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious.
Because
I just look.
Hazardous reasons or. I mean, for me, I know it's at the JetBlue.
So, yeah, I mean, the dog didn't alert, so at least it's not,
Right,
it's nothing dangerous,
right.
Yeah, in that sense.
Right.
But then it could be, I don't know what the heck that is.
Because this is like, because here's the
Oh, it looks like a homeless person's, like, house. I mean, it's got, like, all this. It's all shoes. And whatever the heck, this is like a whole container of Q-tips.
24 miles of award-winning beaches, Everglades National Park, museums, live concerts, performances, shopping, and world-class restaurants offering a variety of local and international cuisines. I hope you enjoy your stay. Please
With
come back.
documents.
Doing its part to combat human trafficking.
well, listen,
It's estimated
she's not here
that
to
over
go back to
25
the
million
start.
people worldwide are victims of human trafficking. Sadly, it's happening in our community here in South Florida. We urge everyone to report suspicious behavior by calling 911 so that law enforcement officials can thoroughly investigate. We thank you.
And get this, the suitcase weighs a whopping 80 pounds.
May I take a picture and put this on it as well? And
Sure, yeah. It's broken, so.
If you're paying over $50 a month for internet and still dealing with connection problems, there are two things you need to hear. First,
Welcome to
you're being
StudyGuides.com,
Second,
your
you might
premier
have a
online
solution.
learning resource.
Have you heard about
With detailed study guides, flashcards, multiple choice.
James Riley Dunkley Cruz was born in New Mexico on January 17, 2015. His mother, Krista Cruz, was only 17 years old and in foster care when he was born. Although she was only a teenager, she already had another son before James was born, and she lost custody of him in 2014. James was a bright soul who had brown hair, dark brown eyes, and a big smile. He had his own room full of toys at his grandparents' house and his own dog named Collab after Superman. He loved playing dinosaurs with his cousins. He liked big trucks. He liked the characters from Toy Story and Paw Patrol. His family said he was upbeat, loved everyone, and was always the life of the party. According to his grandfather, he was a loving little boy who liked to show affection. Whenever they saw each other, he said James would run up to me and say, "Papa," and grab a hold of my leg, and he would hug my leg. He wasn't shy at all. His aunt said he liked to make new friends and would say hi to anyone who came his way.
Because of privacy laws, we only have a few details regarding Krista's early life, but we know she had been the victim of educational neglect, physical abuse, and unusually harsh discipline. The New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department, which we will refer to as CYFD moving forward, was repeatedly called when she was just a child. After 22 referrals, she was placed in foster care when she was 10 years old, and her mother's parental rights were terminated in 2009. Krista was 11 at the time. She remained a ward of the state until she aged out of the system. She became pregnant for the first time when she was around 15 years old. After her first son was born, the father's family won legal custody of the boy in 2014 after claiming that the teen was an unfit parent. By April of that year, she was 16 and already pregnant with James. On January 18th, 2015, one day after James was born, CYFD received a report that Krista was emotionally abusing her newborn son. The agency did not release the identity of the person who made the report, but it was likely either a medical worker or a family member, given that the baby had just been born.
Amazon pays thousands of everyday people side hustle money each month. Here's why and how you can plug in too.
My name is Charlotte Nicholson, and we help everyday people grow their income with this one simple method, and we're pretty darn good at it. Our company, Publishing.com, was named the 19th fastest growing company in America, and the only reason we're so successful is because of the success that we've.
Krista decided she and the baby were going to move back in with her biological mother, and when she turned 18, no one could stop her from doing just that. More reports were made to CYFD, and an investigation 2 months after his birth found the home he had been taken to was unbearable. The floors were covered in dog feces and garbage, and roaches swarmed over the filth. The report also said Krista wasn't taking James for regular doctor's appointments and that she was neglecting and mistreating him. The agency ordered her to take parenting classes, but she never complied with their demands. James's biological father was in his life for a short time, but after the couple ended their romantic relationship, Krista refused to let him see his son. She also cut off contact with his family. None of them knew where she or James was living.
Around this time, what has been described as Krista's maternal family became involved in his care. We know who they were, but not exactly how they are related to Krista. James's aunt Amber Lowe said her mother Sandra Lowe and her husband Kevin Nelson took care of James for several years. Though Sandra does not seem to be Krista's biological mother, she and Kevin called James their grandson and absolutely adored the boy. His life in their home was happy. Pictures showing him playing in the backyard and snuggling with his dog, but Sandra sadly passed away in 2018 when James was 3, and over the protests of Kevin and other family members, Krista took him to live with her and her new boyfriend. The family tried to get CYFD to intervene, but they refused, insisting the boy belonged with his mother. The aunt, Amber, described Krista as a serial dater going from one man to the next. When her current boyfriend was a nice guy, things were better for James, but she didn't always pick nice guys, and none of them were around for long. Not long after he started living with his mother again, CYFD received another report. This time, James was bruised and locked in his room. Even though he was neglected and mistreated, the agency still left him with his mother.
In June of 2019, Krista reported her current boyfriend, referred to in CYFD reports by the initials JM, or CA against James and DV against her. James said JM was hitting him with various objects, and Krista admitted the abuse was happening. The agency placed James with his aunt Amber, who had moved back to New Mexico and was living in her mother's house. James finally got to go home to his old room at his grandparents' house. He got to meet his cousins, Amber's children, and play with his dog. He got to hug his grandfather again. When James arrived at the house, his grandfather said he was in rough shape. He said, "He came here, he had holes in his clothes. They smelled really bad. I mean, they smelled like cat pee. He was hungry." And even though he was 4 years old, Krista still had him in diapers all the time. She had not potty trained him. Krista signed a power of attorney giving Amber custody until November. She was given housing and transportation assistance so she could leave her living situation and find a safe place to live. CYFD substantiated the abuse and closed the case since James was safe living with his aunt and grandfather, but They took no action to make sure that the boy would stay there. At the end of the summer, Krista told Amber she wanted to take James to the zoo. Instead, without telling anyone her plan, she took back physical custody of him. Amber contacted CYFD and told them she was very concerned because Krista still didn't have a stable place to live or the skills she needed to care for James. The caseworker told her that it wasn't illegal for a mother to be homeless and said Amber and Krista needed to work together. The email from the caseworker read, "I gave my suggestions to you and Krista last night. You and Krista need to communicate with each other. It cannot be a finger-pointing match between you and her. I believe you and Krista need to work together for James. I feel she does not know how to properly parent James, but she is wanting to try. So I think we need to help her with that. I am doing what I can on my part as far as referrals. Hope this helps." Kevin, the grandfather, also contacted the agency concerned that Krista's living situation was still dangerous, but unfortunately his concerns were ignored.
Discover your dog's canine health profile to unlock their vitality. A dog's health depends mostly on what they eat. I've been educating dog parents for decades about what...
In September, someone saw a small child wandering around alone late at night and called the police. The police found James, still only 4 years old, outside alone in the dark. The friends Krista had left him with had gone out without telling her, or at least that was the story she told CYFD. She also told him she was being evicted from her apartment on September 20th and would be moving in with her friends Pamela Esparza and Zarek Marquez. The caseworker left a message requesting the address for a new apartment so they could perform a home visit there, but Krista never responded. The caseworker followed up with 4 more calls over the next 2 weeks, but Krista never answered and never returned the calls. The case was closed as unsubstantiated because the agency wasn't able to complete the investigation. The next apartment in the Cinnamon Tree apartment complex was even worse. Weeks after moving there, James ended up at the Duke City Urgent Care in Albuquerque with a dislocated shoulder and many other injuries. Now, during intake, he said he had a hard time sleeping. When a nurse asked if he could drink, he misheard her question and answered, "I dream that I won't be hit again." He was so beaten and bruised, it took the crime scene investigator 14 minutes to photograph all of his injuries. He even had a bruise on his private parts. He told the doctor that someone was touching him there, and the doctor decided to call police.
He said that somebody was touching him, that he would shower with Arturo.
Okay.
And then I asked him, does he touch you down there? Yes, he touches me down there.
In police body cam footage, James sat crisscross on a gurney with his arm in a black sling. Though he must have been in pain, he was sweet and polite when interacting with the officers.
What's your favorite thing about Halloween?
I like my big trucks.
Noticing that one officer looked tired, he asked the officer if he was okay.
Huh? Thank you for asking.
When another asked to see all of his owies and noted that his hand looked swollen, he said, "'Cause I got the arm popped." Then, trying to be helpful, he asked, "Do you want to look at my leg?"
Can you do me a favor and show me all of your owies you have right now? Where it hurts right now?
Krista tried to explain away his injuries. She said she had no idea her ex-boyfriend had showered with James or touched him inappropriately. She said the bruise near his eye was from tripping and falling on his face while taking out the trash. Her roommate, Pamela, also showed up at the ER and explained that some of the injuries came from her 2-year-old daughter. Pamela told officers,
My 2-year-old is a very cute little girl. Very.
Despite their made-up explanations, the caseworker suspected that the male roommate, Zarek, had caused the injuries. James was taken into temporary custody and placed in respite care with a foster family. Krista was told she could no longer live in the apartment with her friends, and arrangements were made for her to stay at the Joy Junction homeless shelter until more permanent housing assistance could be arranged.
The next day, on October 19th, James was interviewed again by a CYFD employee. He told the worker that Zarek, Pamela, and his mother had all hurt him. He said Zarek touched him on his private parts and had beaten him repeatedly. He also said Zarek had burned him with hot water. He said Pamela had beaten him hard with a shoe and a hairbrush, causing bruises on his back. He also said his mother hit him and that 2 of her previous boyfriends, listed in documents as JM and AB, had hurt him as well. Medical workers and the crime scene investigators had evidence that supported what James said, and a caseworker was finally able to do a home inspection of the apartment that he had been living in. That caseworker thought James should be taken into state custody, but her supervisors disagreed with her. She begged them to change their mind. They told her, and I'm quoting from official documents here, they told her to calm down. On October 23rd, CYFD held a family-centered meeting with Krista. In the meeting, she was told James was not allowed anywhere near Pamela or Zarek. Despite everything James said and all of the evidence presented, since Krista agreed she wouldn't be around the couple, the CA and SA charges against them were listed as unsubstantiated. The agency found that Krista was physically neglected that day.
The new folding revolver by Standard Manufacturing has been officially released today. No documents or procedures are required. Just see this video and you can buy one.
Very next day, she left the shelter. She said she was staying with her sister, but that was a lie. She had actually moved James back into the apartment with Zarek and Pamela. The caseworker called police who performed a welfare check at Zarek and Pamela's apartment, but they found no one home there. Police tracked Krista down at work and obtained contact information for the alleged sister, which they gave to CYFD. When the caseworker called and left a message, she got no response. From October 24th until November 18th, Krista continued to avoid calls from her caseworker when she could, and she lied about where she was living whenever she answered the phone. She claimed she had moved to Arizona and gave several different contact numbers, but no one ever responded to messages left at those numbers. Finally, the caseworker talked to Krista on November 18th, and she admitted she had never left the state, though she still claimed James was in Arizona. Convinced that Krista had violated the safety plan, CYFD updated the allegations against Zarek and Pamela, listed them as substantiated. Finally, the decision was made to take James away from Krista. The supervisor at the agency assigned an unnamed subordinate with the task of finding James and taking him into state custody. But that process moved too slowly, and unfortunately, they did not find him in time.
On December 10th, Pamela drove Krista to work, leaving James and their 2 kids home with Zarek, who had been smoking wax, a highly concentrated form of weed that's known to cause hallucinations in some people. Earlier in the evening, James had gotten an electrical burn on his ear, and according to Zarek, James ate.
He checked on his ear. I think his ear was a little rush. I said, I don't feel good, Dad. And went and fell back. And then he hit his head against the wall.
He called Pamela and told her and Krista to come home because James was not acting right. When the women arrived home, they found James naked and unresponsive on the bedroom floor. Krista called 911 and told them her son was not breathing. When the dispatcher answered, she said, "I need an ambulance. My son, he's limp and not breathing." While on the line, she also said to James, "I'm right here, baby." She gave the address to the Cinnamon Tree Apartments and frantically screamed, "Please help me."
Police and first responders from the fire department arrived a little after 10 p.m. and paramedics arrived a few minutes later. James was not breathing, so the first responder immediately started CPR. Everything Zarek said sounded suspicious. He told the responder that James hadn't been breathing for about 20 to 30 minutes. He claimed he had tried to do CPR before he called Pamela and Krista, but he wasn't doing CPR when they arrived at the home. He also told the first responder to ignore the burn on his ear because it had occurred in a separate incident. The responder asked why he didn't call 911 right away. Zarek had no answer. The injuries the police could see just by looking at James were not consistent with Zarek's explanation of what happened. In addition to the bloody upper ear they were supposed to ignore, he was covered in bruises and had cuts on his lip, chin, and his knees. He also had a long scratch on his neck and a bump on the back of his head. Once paramedics arrived, they rushed James to the University of New Mexico hospital, but sadly, there was nothing they could do. He had been without oxygen for far too long and was pronounced dead at 10:44 p.m. Detective Maureen O'Brien, who went to the hospital to investigate his injuries, said she knew right away that he had been hurt on purpose. She said, and I quote, "I knew this wasn't an accident. He didn't fall. I knew as soon as I saw him that he was beat to death. I didn't need an autopsy. He was bruised literally from the top of his head to the tips of his toes, front and back.
Back at the apartment, police were still trying to get the truth out of Zarek. When officers told him his story didn't make any sense, Zarek claimed he was trying to find a clean pair of underwear for James, who was lying flat on his back on the bedroom floor. Zarek stepped over the boy on his way to the dresser, and he said he tripped and fell knee first onto him. He said James started panting, was breathing funny, and had a blank stare. He said the boy got up and took a couple of steps and then collapsed and hit his head. When officers noted his own hand was bruised and swollen, he first blamed it on a fight he'd had weeks before at work. When officers said the injury looked fresh, he changed his story and claimed he punched a car after hearing James had passed away. But he'd been with the officers the whole time, and none of the body cam footage showed Zarek punching anything. Despite their suspicion, officers had 3 suspects and not enough evidence to arrest any of them.
Over the next several months, the investigation moved very slowly. A week after his death, there was a vigil held to honor James at the ABQ party place. Krista's friends and community members gathered to remember the little boy. Krista made several public comments stating she always put James first and did everything she could to save him. She said, "He came before myself," and that she used to walk a long route to work so I could support him.
So, you've just finished writing your book and are ready to share it with the world. But wait, what's the best way to publish today? Think about it. Despite all the human progress over the last 100 years, the publishing industry hasn't changed much since the invention of the printing press. And this is why so many authors find themselves hoping for big publishing houses to notice and approve their writings, getting rejected over and over again. And even for those that decide to do it themselves, this is why most publishing solutions take so much time, 6 to 12 months, and are also very expensive, relying on numerous human inputs, making the process complicated and unpredictable, leading so many authors to quit before they even get the chance to publish their amazing work. But what if we could combine the old, standard publishing process with today's advanced technology platforms and simplify the process? What if there was a way to publish your book affordably, easily, professionally, and in less than 30 days, all done with the assistance of your own personal project manager? What if you had one simple publishing platform that allows you to easily navigate through all the stages of publishing? Join our community of happy authors. Take the first step to making your creation come to life. Visit spines.com, sign up for free, and start your publishing journey now. Spines, the same old story retold.
Why are women everywhere choosing ABX, the new tummy tuck alternative?
I got the tummy tuck results without the tummy tuck downtime.
Get a flat, tight tummy with Sonobello's new ABX. One visit fat and loose excess skin removal.
Sonobello's ABX is a tremendous breakthrough. Combine both liposuction and skin resection safely to be able to custom tailor our treatment for the patient.
I got a flat, tight tummy thanks to ABEX.
I went to Sonobello and I did the ABEX. I feel confident, and most of all, I feel like the old me before I had my babies.
I had Sonobello ABEX over 3 months ago. I just can't believe it. Like, it's so bomb.
It feels good to feel good and look good.
I wish I would have done it way sooner.
The mommy belly is gone.
Schedule your free, no obligation consultation now. Sonobello, it's your life. Live it beautifully.
She also said she'd known Zarek and Pamela since they were kids and said, "I trusted this person with my life, and like any mom, you think you've known them for so long, they're not going to hurt your child or do anything like this." However, for all her talk of self-sacrifice, she didn't mention that she chose to go back to live in an unsafe apartment after promising to find other housing, and she didn't mention she already had ample warning that her roommates were hurting her child. In January, 3 weeks after his grandson's death, Kevin told reporters he was frustrated and wanted answers. There still had not been any arrests. He said, "I reach out to them and I feel like I'm being ignored." If nothing else, he said they should let somebody know that they're working on it. However, police were working on it, and Zarek's story was beginning to unravel. His 2-year-old daughter told investigators from CYFD and the police that her father jumped on James too hard when he got in trouble. She said James was hurt that night and she heard him yelling "ow." Police also found a string of revealing text messages on Zarek and Pamela's cell phones. Over the course of months, the couple had messaged each other about beating the children and lying about injuries that happened to James. They also talked about how much they hated James and his mother. In one particularly damning text, Pamela said she told James to shut up because no one cared about his leg being hurt. She asked Zarek to lie to Krista and say that their daughter had hurt him. Even Pamela's mother talked to investigators. She saw James when they brought him to her house for Thanksgiving dinner. She said the boy was in a lot of pain and could barely walk, but her daughter told her that he just had a weak leg. By Thanksgiving, CYFD already decided to take him into state custody. It's not unthinkable that someone from the agency could have tracked down Pamela's mother to ask if she had seen him over the holidays. If they had caught up with James in time, he would have been limping, but he still would have been alive today.
Finally, on February 18, 2020, police arrested Zarek and charged him with intentional abuse resulting in death. It was intentional in part because he was watching James even though CYFD had ordered he had no contact with him. Zarek was held without bonds. Not until the end of the next year, on December 13, 2021, were Krista and Pamela arrested and charged with reckless abuse resulting in death. On May 6, 2022, Zarek pled guilty. His sentencing hearing was held on December 15th and presided over by Judge Stan Whitaker. That name might sound familiar. He was also the judge in the Omari Varela case that we covered earlier this year. During the sentencing hearing, Zarek's daughters both testified via video, describing the abuse that happened in their home.
The medical examiner's office also detailed the many injuries James suffered, explaining that they indicated he had been suffering from abuse over the course of months. He had 3 jaw and chin fractures that were in the process of healing. He also had a subdural hematoma, which meant that he had been hit hard enough to damage the blood vessels in his brain, causing blood to pool there. This hematoma also showed signs of healing. Externally, he was covered in bruises and cuts. Some were fresh and others were in various stages of healing. He had bruises on his right and left hips, the middle of his back, both knees and shoulders, and on his bottom. He also had bruises on his ribs, bicep, elbow, lower neck, the bridge of his nose, his cheek, and his ear. His chest, neck, and chin were scratched. He had 2 knots on his head, as well as a fractured skull, and a large portion of his bottom lip was missing. Internally, his liver and pancreas had been lacerated, causing blood to pool in his belly. His lungs, intestines, and other internal tissues were bruised. His cause of death was blunt head and torso trauma caused by multiple fatal blows involving different parts of the body. His manner of death was ruled a homicide. Kevin wanted to know why. He said of Zarek, "He's a grown man. What could a 4-year-old child do to him that could warrant this kind of response?" During his impact statement, Kevin said James's death was senseless and could have easily been avoided. He said, "If you were unhappy with James being in your home, you could have always just dropped him off by my house. I would have gladly taken him in, as I have time and time again." Judge Whitaker said this was one of the worst cases he had ever seen. He sentenced Zarek to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years, in accordance with the plea deal he had made. The judge also blamed CYFD for their multiple failures, noting that the agency had been called at least 13 times and failed to take any meaningful action. He said, "We are seeing too much of this. Too much of CYFD going in and seeing children in situations where probably kids should be taken out, and we just don't have that happening. As a result, we see way too many children being brutalized and abused and ultimately killed. I don't have any words for it." After his sentencing, Zarek filed an appeal saying that he thought his parole was guaranteed after 30 years and not just a possibility. His appeal was denied.
On September 12, 2023, Pamela pled guilty to abandonment of a child resulting in death, failure to report CA, and 1 count of CA. At her sentencing hearing in November, she spoke in her own defense, saying, I want to be accountable to my own role as a protector and guardian of James. I want you all to know I never meant for this to happen, but it did.
Do you hear that? The pure panic of a cyber attack. The endless alerts of component failure and power loss. Can you hear it?
No.
Neither can we.
Judge Whitaker didn't appear moved by her statement. He said she had the power to save James, but she did nothing. He sentenced her to 13 years in prison and 5 years of supervised probation. On September 6, 2023, Krista pled guilty to 4 counts for her role in James' death, 1 count of child abandonment resulting in death, 2 counts of CA, and 1 count of failing to report CA. During her plea hearing, prosecutors argued that as a mother, she was responsible for protecting her son, and she should have realized he was being severely and repeatedly abused. The prosecutor called this case the worst of the worst. It's the worst case I've ever been a part of, but the most important case I've been a part of. In February of 2024, Krista's attorney argued that the judge should show her leniency because she had been a victim of CA as a child and suffered from depression and other mental illnesses. Judge Whitaker said he wouldn't allow her to use her diagnosis as an excuse for murder. He said, "It can't be used as a justification for not protecting this child. It cannot and will not by this court be accepted as an excuse. This could have been prevented. James could be here today." He sentenced Krista to a total of 22 years, but her sentences will run concurrently. That means she will spend 10 years in prison and an additional 5 years on probation. Krista and Pamela are both currently serving their time at the Western New Mexico Correctional Facility in Cibola County. Zarek is serving his life sentence at Guadalupe County Correctional Facility in Santa Rosa.
James was cremated, and his remains are with his family. His grandfather said he wishes he could talk to him one more time and tell him I love him. Hang in there, it'll get better, and get ready for school. Kindergarten's coming up soon. Said what happened to his grandson shouldn't have happened, and it should never happen again to anybody else. On behalf of his grandson, he filed a wrongful death lawsuit against CYFD and the state of New Mexico, alleging the state had at least 10 different opportunities to save James, failed every single time. One of his attorneys, Alex Kreka, said, "How many more kids have to die before we get actual reform at the investigative level to prevent atrocities like this? This is an atrocious case. This child should be alive, and he should be taken care of by a family that loves him." The lawsuit pointed out that James's mother repeatedly violated safety plans with no consequences. It placed some of the blame on the structured decision-making tool the agency used to assess risk. The tool is supposed to help caseworkers make better informed decisions by helping caseworkers and their supervisors gauge the amount of danger the child is in. But according to the lawsuit, too often the inputs don't clearly and accurately convey the facts of the case, and the resulting decisions are flawed, as happened in James's case. During depositions for the lawsuit, the caseworker who begged to take James into custody revealed even more misconduct, the kind that shocks the conscious and could rise to the level of a crime. Not only did her supervisors dismiss her legitimate concerns, they also demanded she change and delete portions of her notes before entering them into the CYFD database. They made her turn over her work phone so they could reset it on her and destroy all the evidence it contained. In response to these revelations, Attorney Kreka said, "CYFD is engaged in a cover-up. They're destroying evidence of their own wrongful acts. They're saying in court that they do not have a responsibility to protect this child. It's disgusting." No criminal charges have been filed and no employees have been publicly sanctioned, but CYFD agreed to pay a $4.9 million settlement to the estate, money that will go to the older brother James never knew, or it will once the state can afford it. CYFD is asking for a special appropriation of $20 million in order to pay this, as well as 6 other settlements they agreed to in 2023. Though he was glad everyone involved, including Krista and CYFD, had to admit they had done wrong, it wasn't enough for James's grandfather. He wants to see real change. He said the following:
"I'd like to see the whole place burned down and rebuilt."
How would you like to see it be rebuilt?
Well, better checks and balances, number one. make sure everybody's doing their job and they're all on board. From the secretary on down, everybody gets double checked.
He doesn't want this to happen to another family and thinks the agency needs more oversight. He still thinks of his grandson every day and keeps a drawing James did on the front of his fridge. He said,
"This was something that James had done when he was living here."
For Kevin Nelson, all he has left to remember his grandson James are his toys and this drawing.
After he passed, I just didn't have the heart to take it down, and it's been up there ever since. It's never moved. It's kind of faded over time.
And while the pain of a tragic death will fade with time,
and it'll stay up there forever.
He said, just
not all collagen brands are made equal.
Collagen peptide has my skin glowing and radiant, my nails long and strong, and my curls look and feel so much thicker and fuller. And I've tried a lot of different collagens out there, but what I like about Live Conscious is that it's made using grass-fed.
Those responsible. You know, it wasn't in vain.
On the 1-year anniversary of James' death, the nonprofit organization New Mexicans Against CA asked his family to submit his story to help keep his memory alive. The family told their story as if James was speaking. They wrote,
"Hi, I'm James. I have a story to tell you. I was born to a mother who really didn't know how to raise me. My daddy was around for a short time, but then he was gone. My grandmother and papa raised me. My mommy was around, but my grandma was really the one who took care of me. My grandma died and I lived with my mommy. My family called for help to see if they could keep me. These people from CYFD came over and talked to me. I didn't really understand what was happening. I just knew I didn't want to go back with my mommy. I told these people why my mommy doesn't like me. I told them that. They let me stay with my papa and auntie. Oh yeah, my cousin too. My mommy didn't have a place for me to stay. I wasn't in the best shape when I got to my papa's house. And then one day my mommy came and took me away. This is when my life got worse. We moved away a lot. My mommy wouldn't protect me like my family would. I was sad. I missed the people who loved me. On December 10th, I was beaten so badly I was no longer responsive. I had to leave my body. My injuries were devastating to my family. My family has to live without me now. I cried when I had to leave them behind. I left this world alone, but I wasn't scared anymore. I'm safe now, and my family is fighting for my justice on earth. I will see them all again one day. For now, I'm in a peaceful place, playing with dinosaurs with Jesus. Don't let my story die like I had to. I can save others by telling my story."
The only thing more popular than me is Wild Natural deodorant. Cherry Blossom. Oh, I wish I could sniff your pits all day. You totally can. Wild lasts for 24 hours.
Plus, with all of their different reusable cases, Wild matches all of our outfits.
Using natural ingredients like shea butter to moisturize and tapioca starch to absorb sweat, we gave a Wild Natural deodorant makeover to this nerd. She looks the same, but she smells amazing. Wow! 24 hours guaranteed of my favorite scent. I love mine!
I didn't flee and I didn't kick you.
So those lights and sirens mean nothing? We're just out here.
Can I call my father?
No.
He owns the island.
Why were they pulled over, first of all? Now, don't call me Miss. I'm Commissioner. Thank you.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to turn him loose.
I can't turn him loose, Bruce.
Sometimes you just need your mom and dad, but during an arrest is not the time to request their help. We're breaking down 6 times parents got involved in their grown child's arrest. Welcome to After Hours, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sam Goldberg. We begin today's episode in San Juan County, Utah. It's the day after Thanksgiving in 2022, and deputies have pulled over Kenneth Adams. Kenneth had previously entered a guilty plea in a burglary and theft case from 2020, but this stop is just for minor traffic infractions for the time being.
How's it going? Good. What did I do wrong? Okay, so the reason I stopped you is you didn't come to a complete stop, the stop sign? I did. And then you didn't have your turn signal on?
I sure did.
Okay.
I know for a fact I had my turn signal on.
Okay.
That's why I was surprised you were pulling me over, but whatever.
Okay. Do you have your vehicle insurance and registration?
Yes, you do.
1D30-1804. Area cards, cancel ATL on welfare tech.
I'll be right back. I'll run this and get back to you, okay?
But the traffic stop takes a turn when the deputies realize Kenneth has an active warrant. But Kenneth finds that hard to believe.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle with me?
What are you doing? No, what's going on? Seriously, what's going on?
You have a warrant.
How do I have a warrant?
I don't know how you have a warrant, but it's on our system right now. You have an active warrant out of 7th District Court here in San Juan.
I've gone to, no, that's incorrect.
Okay, well, it's on our system right now.
Well,
and I'm not going to argue with you about it. You're going to go to jail tonight on that warrant, okay?
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I don't, excuse me, like, no.
Okay.
This is, dude, this is absurd.
Mr. Adams, you do have an active warrant for your arrest.
And, who issued the warrant, though?
The courts have it issued.
For what, though? Because I've gone to court for everything. There should not be an active warrant for me anywhere, dude. That's what I'm saying. So
We're
I
not
want you
going to
guys to
argue
double
with you
check.
tonight, because that is what the information we go off with. And the courts aren't open right now.
When did it go on there? No, that's not.
Do you want me to see when it was issued?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, but
Can you please tell me when it was issued?
Yep. If you step out of the car, I'll let you know.
Okay, but this is. Why were you guys sitting there? Is my question.
All right.
It's like you were sitting there waiting for me.
Step out of the car.
If you can't manifest abundance, there are 3 simple reasons why not. I see so many people getting this wrong.
This is. Why were you guys sitting there? Is my question.
All right.
It's like you were sitting there waiting for me.
Step out of the car.
What's that?
I'm calling my parents.
Okay, you can call them. I'm going to put you in touch real quick.
I'm getting arrested. Apparently they take a warrant out for my arrest on no problem. But I'm out by Eastland. I'm getting it. Eastland. And they're arresting me right now. The cops are, Mom. Who else would arrest me? Good question. They said that I didn't. They said I didn't stop at the stop sign. So you pulled me over, and I naturally and somehow automatically have a warrant out for my arrest that I never knew about. Mom, I wish I was kidding you. Do you want to talk to the officers later? You can. Turk and I don't know what this other kid's name is.
Giddings.
Some Giddings guy.
Here, hand your phone to Deputy Turk right there.
You want to hang up?
So, yeah, Mom, so I'm going to jail. So, I'm going to jail. Mom, they are handcuffing me right now. I've asked them for the warrant, and they don't tell me anything about a search warrant. So, nothing, not using anything, Mom. They're arresting me because they said there was a warrant for me.
Okay, I'm hanging the phone up.
No, I'm not kidding, Mom.
Do you have anything else on you?
No, I do not.
Check you up there. Keys in the car. Wallet in there. Okay, nothing in your waistline? No.
All right. I have something on my waistline. You have to think I'm like some hardened criminal, dude.
No, that's just...
Bring us that issue.
We're going to look
Please
at it
let
right now.
And so what if this is a mistake? Then what are you going to do?
If it's a mistake, you'd be released. But...
Well, then my question is, dude, this is a joke. This is seriously the biggest joke I've ever heard of.
It's me that Bruce was trying to on.
Why would I anything to find out the... You want me to call her? Hey, Bob. Bruce, we don't have anything to do with that. All we know is that the warrant issues a current.
Hi, please leave a message.
Hey, it's Michelle. Oh my goodness, you won't believe who I just bumped into. Call me back if you want to know.
Do you know what may be causing thousands more wildebeest than usual to die during their annual Great Migration? It's climate change.
So this guy is a mega church preacher, and he gets a little pervy, and now he's on the run from the FBI. Now the guy's name is Apollo. He's 24, he's from the Philippines, and he's a small-time preacher there. And one day, he's preaching in a little chapel when suddenly angels appear to him. And they come and they tell him that he's actually the son of his God. So he starts telling everyone that he is the appointed son of God. Well, I'm sure this will end well for him. So anyway, because of this, he decides to start his own church. And a few years later, after the church is founded, this guy shows up, Rodrigo. And Rodrigo's running for mayor, and he comes to speak to the congregation at the church. And they welcome him, and soon enough, he and Apollo become good friends. And later, Rodrigo actually gets elected mayor, and he appoints Apollo to be his spiritual advisor. And so then more people find out about Apollo and his teachings, and his church starts to grow, and soon the donations start rolling in. Because, of course they do. But these donations aren't enough for Apollo. He wants more. So he gets the full-time working members of the church to go out at 6 a.m. every morning and solicit money from strangers for the church. The only catch is they can't come home until they reach their daily quota of money collected. So to avoid sleeping on the street, the members of the church start playing on people's sympathy. Like they pretend to be poor college students or they pretend to be disabled, but whatever. It works, and the church makes a ton of money. And so pretty quickly, Pastor Apollo becomes a very wealthy man. He's so wealthy, in fact, that he's able to start his own broadcasting network. And this helps spread his teachings beyond the Philippines. So now he's got followers around the world, in many different countries, including the United States. And this is where Apollo really levels up. And with the help of his innermost circle, he traffics his most obedient followers into the US, where they start working and soliciting donations from people full-time. So he's making even more money. Oh, and I haven't even gotten to some of the crazy stuff this guy claims. Aside from saying he's the son of some god, he once claimed that he yelled at an earthquake and made it stop. Like there was an earthquake happening, and he's just like, ah! And it just stopped. And he also says that the public should thank him for stopping that earthquake. Thanks, Apollo. He also claims that he talks to his god directly, not metaphorically, but like conversations directly. He also says that he has visions of his god. He claims that he has been physically taken up into heaven on multiple occasions. I mean, this guy has said and done way too much for me to cover in one video. But anyway, and if that's not crazy enough, here's the part of the story where things start to get creepy. Among his church workers, the ones who are young, attractive women and who excel at getting donations, they get to move up and become what's called pastoral assistants. And of course, the prettiest and most obedient pastoral assistants, they get into Apollo's inner circle, and they become what are called spiritual wives. And spiritual wives, they get a special privilege. They get the privilege of smashing with Apollo. Yeah, they literally call it night duty. And these pastoral assistants and spiritual wives are anywhere between 25 years old all the way down to 12 years old. While at this point in the story, Apollo is old as shit. He's 74. And if any of these girls or young women protest their night duty, they're then threatened with eternal damnation. So basically, if they don't smash with him, they're verbally threatened, physically threatened, or he tells them they're going to hell. And to make it worse, these young women depend on the church for their basic needs. Like they live and work at the church. Their entire social life is there. So they're kind of trapped in this. So he's basically trafficking these girls. Like this is sex trafficking. And this nonsense goes on for years, not just in the Philippines, but in their US locations too. And at this point, Apollo is a powerful man. Like, his following has grown to over 6 million members worldwide. He claims he has followers in all 200 countries. Plus, with all those donations, he's now wealthier than he's ever been. Dude now owns a private jet and a personal helicopter. He has a church compound that's so massive, it has an indoor arena that seats 75,000 people. To put that in perspective, that's literally the biggest indoor arena in the entire world. And this dude owns it. That's how rich he is. Okay, but
Now hiring difference makers. As an H&R Block tax pro, you'll make a positive impact on the financial lives of those in your community. Choose a career with meaningful work, flexible hours, remote options. Apply today at hrblock.com/nowhiring. It's better with Block.
Students with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension.
But no, by all means, go ahead, skip the ad, save a few seconds.
I have to do a lot of reading for my job, emails, reports, write-ups, but sometimes reading can get really, really tiring. To stay focused, I use a free Chrome extension called Speechify. All I do is highlight the text, right-click, and then Speechify reads it out to me.
SEC data show 359 million.
then rumors of him essaying young women, they start to spread. And of course, his followers don't believe he's guilty of anything. They stand by him. And religious, culty type leaders always have followers who do this, so this is not surprising. But his longtime friend, Mayor Rodrigo, he ends up running for president, and he wins. And with the president of the Philippines on his side, every accusation against Apollo is basically buried. So Apollo seems untouchable by this point. He's been running this trafficking business for like 16 years, and it doesn't seem like there are ever gonna be any consequences for it. Until, I guess at some point, some of his former church members in the US, they go and report him to the FBI. And the FBI starts looking into him, and this investigation makes the news, and Apollo hears about it, and he's like, oh shit. And he allegedly flees the US, and he goes all the way back to the Philippines to his church compound there. And there, he'll be protected by his longtime friend, President Rodrigo. But unfortunately, his friend Rodrigo finishes his term as president, leaves office, and now there's a new president. And new president is not Apollo's friend. So all the accusations against him in the Philippines are no longer buried. So then, back in the US, bam, the FBI arrests some of his innermost circle, and they're officially looking for Apollo too. And he's being accused of fraud, human trafficking, and sex trafficking, and now he's on the FBI's most wanted list. And so Apollo, he gets all mad, and he's frustrated that they're after him, and he starts lashing out publicly, saying it's a conspiracy. And this is happening during the COVID pandemic, so he gives a sermon telling the world that if we want the pandemic to stop, the FBI should stop investigating him.
I'm warning the whole world. Listen to the voice of the appointed son. You want this pandemic to stop. Stop persecuting, prosecuting, maligning the appointed son.
But then, even more women in the Philippines come forward with accusations against him. And of course, Apollo denies everything, and he insists that the people accusing him are just evil, and he changes the homepage of his website to this: why are evil people after Pastor Apollo? I'm guessing they're after him because of all the sex trafficking, but that's just a guess. Anyway, eventually, the Filipino Senate issues a warrant for his arrest, and they raid some of his properties, but the dude is nowhere to be found. He's fled, and he's hiding out from the law, and there's like this whole manhunt looking for him, and there ends up being, and as of right now, he hasn't actually been to trial yet, so we'll see how this plays out. And thank you to Leonardo.ai for sponsoring this video. If you want to make badass art for your videos like this, or like this, or like this, then sign up for Leonardo.
You know that feeling when you look at your to-do list and you just want to crawl back into bed? Yeah, me too.
One cannot talk about child deaths in California without touching on the death of Gabriel Fernandez. Many of you may have seen the 6-part crime documentary, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, on Netflix. If you have not, I highly suggest that you please do so. While we will do our best to present Gabriel's story with the respect and dignity that he deserves, This documentary takes a deep dive into his case that shines a light on just how many people failed this poor child.
So, shortly after he was born, Gabriel was put in the custody of his great uncle on his mother's side, Michael Lemos Carranza, and his partner, David Martinez, who raised him for 4 years. In 2009, 4-year-old Gabriel moved in with his grandparents due to his grandfather's objection to Carranza's and Martinez's same-sex relationship.
Yeah, they didn't like that Gabriel was so affectionate with them, and they made these outrageous claims that they were turning him gay because of it.
Which you'll see the effects of later on, sadly.
Right. So Gabriel lived with his grandparents, Robert and Sandra Fernandez, until 2012 when his mother, Pearl, sought custody, reportedly to gain welfare benefits. She was eventually granted custody despite concerns that she was neglectful towards other children. Despite objections from family members, Gabriel moved in with his mother and her boyfriend, Izaro Aguirre, who worked as a security guard. Pearl had been described by family members as abusive, and it had been noted that she had a history of domestic violence directed at her partners. And unfortunately, Gabriel's family's concerns were valid. So Gabriel was systematically abused and tortured during his 6-month stay with his mother and her boyfriend. Just to give you an idea of some of the abuse that young Gabriel suffered, he was forced to eat cat litter and feces. He was forced to eat his own vomit. He was regularly beaten, which caused broken bones. He was burned in various parts of his body with cigarettes. He was shot in areas of his body, including his face and his groin, with a BB gun. He was forced to wear clothing typically worn by girls. I believe when they found him, there were 2 dresses hanging up in his closet, and that's all. All of his clothes had been bagged up and put under the bathroom sink. He was forced to sleep bound and gagged in a small cupboard in his parents' bedroom, and it was locked up with handcuffs. He was pepper sprayed in the bathroom by a forced to eat cat litter. And he was forced to eat cat litter generally when he was asked to clean the litter box and they felt that he didn't do a good enough job. So because he didn't do a good enough job, they made him eat it. According to Gabriel's siblings, Ezekiel and Virginia, while Gabriel was being abused, his mother and stepfather would laugh at him. Aguirre reportedly abused Gabriel because he believed he was gay. Although Pearl reportedly punched Virginia in the face once, the abuse and torture did not extend to his siblings.
On May 22, 2013, Pearl Fernandez called 911 to report Gabriel was not breathing. Gabriel had been fatally beaten by his mother and Aguirre after failing to clean up his toys. When first responders arrived, they found him on the ground naked with several injuries. Aguirre casually explained to them that Gabriel was gay, despite the information being irrelevant to the fact that a young boy was dying in front of them. It was noted by first responders that Fernandez and Aguirre didn't seem concerned about Gabriel's well-being and fought amongst themselves during their time there.
They also made Virginia clean up all the blood that was on the floor.
Paramedics rushed him to the hospital where doctors declared him brain dead. Gabriel Fernandez passed away 2 days later on May 24, 2013 at the Los Angeles Children's Hospital. He was just 8 years old. The official autopsy declared he died of blunt force trauma coincided with neglect and malnutrition. Cat litter was found in his stomach contents, and his thymus gland was shriveled up, indicating that Gabriel had suffered from extreme stress over the course of several months. Many of those who witnessed his fragile state have expressed that they are still scarred to this day by what they saw. Gabriel's battered body was cremated. His remains are residing with his grandparents.
On May 23, 2013, Pearl Fernandez and Izaro Aguirre were arrested. Fernandez was arrested for felony child endangerment, while Aguirre was arrested for attempted murder. However, when Gabriel died, Fernandez and Aguirre were both charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture. Prosecutors then pursued the death penalty.
Pearl Fernandez pled guilty on February 15, 2018 to her charge as part of a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. She was subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In court, she stated, quote, "I want to say I'm sorry for what happened. I wish Gabriel was alive. Every day I wish that I would have made better choices. I'm sorry to my children, and I want them to know that I love them," end quote.
Whatever. Like, honestly, she's a terrible person. Throughout that documentary, she's so foul-mouthed and crazy, it's insane.
Yeah.
She's just constantly screaming at Aguirre any single time that she can see him. They had wired both of their cells at one point and intentionally stuck them next to each other.
to see if they would talk. And during this time, she started screaming at him basically to see if they could get their...
Listen, what if you can start your own lending business, helping other businesses get access to capital? And what if, by doing so, you would build yourself a 6 or a 7-figure business, just like the people who's flashing on your screen right now? I'm responsible for educating and training more than 3,000 people becoming business loan brokers. And the best part is they're not lending their own money. They're leveraging other people's money, getting into the lending industry and helping others get access to capital while they're building a very profitable
story straight before they went into trial. Because initially that they were going to try them together. And his wire didn't work, hers did. Eventually that conversation turned sexual.
Oh my God. We can't do this justice on just how twisted and warped these two are unless you were to see the documentary. But it's bad. It's very, very bad.
Kizaru Aguirre pled not guilty to the charge of first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture. Jury deliberation began on November 14th, 2017, and a verdict was reached the next afternoon. Ultimately, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and guilty of the circumstance of torture charges, and it took them a bit to get to that because they had one juror who kept holding out over and over and over again that he didn't feel that this was premeditated, that you could argue that it wasn't.
He wanted second-degree murder over first-degree, which I feel is ridiculous.
It's really ridiculous because honestly, when you're feeding a child nothing but cat litter and beating them, you have to know eventually you're going to kill them. You have to be an idiot to not think that.
Exactly.
So, on December 11th, 2017, jury deliberation began for the sentencing phase. The next day, the jury was deadlocked, again, because of the same juror. However, on December 13th, they decided to recommend the death penalty, which was accepted by the judge.
So you might be wondering, did anyone notice what happened to Gabriel? Why didn't anyone report this?
They did.
Well, in the months preceding his death, Gabriel showed his injuries and reported the abuse to a security guard, family members, as well as a teacher, which led to several calls to social services to no avail. After being hit with a metal belt, he asked his teacher, Jennifer Garcia, if it's, quote, normal to bleed, end quote. In response, Garcia called social services and was later called by a social worker named Stephanie Rodriguez, informing her that she was assigned to the case. On another day, Gabriel came to class with chunks of his hair missing and a lump on his lip. When questioned about it by Garcia, Gabriel said his mother had punched him in the mouth. After discussing with the principal, Garcia called Rodriguez back and informed her of the recent signs of abuse. Later, when Gabriel reported to his teacher that he was shot in the face with a BB gun by his mother, she once again informed social services of the new sign of abuse.
So it was really insane. Each time Garcia would call DCFS, he'd be abused further at home, to the point where he didn't really even want to tell Garcia anymore what was going on. And what's even more tragic is the last piece of schoolwork that Gabriel completed was a Mother's Day card for Pearl, talking about how much he loved her and how beautiful he thought she was. Garcia actually took a bunch of pictures of Gabriel holding the letters M-O-M, and he is like so badly beaten, but he still did this and smiled. And mind you, he didn't have many teeth left at this point, not because he was a first grader losing teeth, but because his mother and his mother's boyfriend beat his teeth out with bats. And this project was still sitting on his desk when Garcia found out that he was dead.
After Gabriel missed 13 consecutive days of school, he returned and his teacher noticed that his condition had greatly worsened. She attempted to call Rodriguez, but her call was never returned. Gabriel's great aunt, Elizabeth Carranza, and her husband called social services 3 times and talked to sheriffs twice regarding the welfare of Gabriel. So not just social services, but the police were contacted. And then 29 days before his death, Arturo Miranda Martinez, a security guard at Los Angeles County Welfare Office, noticed extensive injuries on Gabriel's body, which prompted him to call 911. If you're not aware, this is risking his job to break confidentiality to report the injuries to the sheriffs, but he did this anyway because he was this concerned about Gabriel. So we have somebody going above and beyond the call of duty here, risking their own livelihood to try to save this boy, and it did not work. Overall, between 2005 and 2012, 60 complaints were filed against Pearl Fernandez and Aguirre to the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services.
So a part to add on to the bit about the security guard. So he first reported the abuse to a woman named Maricela Corona, who worked in the domestic violence unit, who actually saw Gabriel as well when Pearl had went into the DCFS office. She started first off making fun of his hair. And mind you, it wasn't a weird haircut. His hair had been pulled out to the point where there were scabs over his head. And Martina was like, no, this boy has been beat up. So
let's be clear, somebody who works for the domestic violence unit was making fun of a small boy's hair.
Yes.
Who was being reported for abuse.
So her supervisors told her not to get involved. They were not filing reports because it was a Friday night. They were closing in 15 minutes, and they did not want to pay overtime. So what happened was Maricela slipped Martinez Gabriel's home information for him to file a complaint. Mind you, this is no HIPAA violation because she just didn't do her job and she slipped the info over to Martinez, which really, even though what she did was complete crap, was sort of a right thing to do so that he could do his due diligence. He called 911 and they told him that this was not an emergency, like scolded him for this and told him to call the sheriffs. Now, the sheriff's office, I don't remember if it was this instance or another instance, had basically told Pearl and Azaro that they were going to come and try to scare Gabriel straight because he was writing suicide notes and he was getting beat up by other children, according to them. Really, it was them beating him up. And that they were going to scare him straight for making what they called false suicide notes or threats and lying. So the sheriffs didn't help at all.
Do you know if the security guard, Martinez, if he lost his job when he reported it?
He actually went and told his superiors that he was going to do this, and they told him not to get involved. Like, why are you doing this?
And
I don't think he did it anyways. I don't believe he lost his job over it, but he told them that, what he was going to do, and they told him not to.
2 social workers, Stephanie Rodriguez, who we mentioned earlier, and Patricia Clement, as well as 2 supervisors, Kevin Baum and Gregory Merritt, for the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, were fired and charged with child abuse and falsifying public records. The unprecedented charges held significant consequences, including up to 11 years in prison. However, these charges were ultimately dismissed by California's 2nd District Court of Appeals for lack of probable cause. So if you're wondering, and we've had a lot of people in the comments section being like, why aren't we charging social workers for neglect? While I would like to, this is the likely outcome. This is why charges aren't pursued against social workers, because this is what happens. Lack of probable cause. It's really hard to charge a social worker with something like this, harder than you think. So in January of 2020, prosecutors attempted to get a rehearing for the case, but eventually decided to drop the charges altogether. Additionally, 9 sheriff's deputies were internally disciplined for not properly investigating the abuse allegations.
So it should be noted as well, and you'll know this if you go ahead and watch the documentary or have watched the documentary, none of this would have come to light had one particular journalist from the LA Times working the beat not decided to dig into Gabriel's death. There are hundreds of people who are killed or murdered in LA County.
You never hear about it.
And you never hear about it. He just thought it was a strange case and decided to dig a little bit deeper and found people who were willing to be confidential informants within DCFS to give information.
It's a hard process, and you'll see that outlined in the documentary.
These folks that actually were whistleblowers could have been put in jail.
Yeah, not just losing their jobs. They were potentially facing criminal charges as well as losing their job.
So some kind of where are they now situations on the Gabriel Fernandez case. His great uncle Michael sadly passed away about a year after Gabriel did. I've not found any sort of cause of death, but a lot of pictures that show him, he does look sick. I don't know if it was some sort of health concern or not. His partner, David Martinez, was captured by ICE and was deported to El Salvador. Arnold Contreras, a lot of people wonder, where was he during all of this? He was actually in jail. He was in jail when he found out that Gabriel was dead. And so when he got out of jail, he actually reached out to the DA who was prosecuting the case to make sure that he was a good guy, because he had served time in jail and had a general distrust, obviously, for law enforcement. And I tell you what, that guy felt very sorry that he wasn't there for Gabriel and is completely crushed by all of this. At the end of the documentary, the DA and Arnold are like crying and embracing each other. So what now? 60 complaints to Child Protective Services made from mandated reporters could not save Gabriel Fernandez from a painful and tragic death.
And if it wasn't for the hard work of that one reporter that we talked about in the documentary, Gabriel's case may have never, ever been known to the public.
So in his case, Child Protective Services clearly failed, and it could be argued that charges against those who failed him should have never been dropped. I think they should have been tried.
I think so too. And when I read this case of Gabriel Fernandez, it's so horrible, but I think what a lot of people do is they look at this case and they think it is a unique novelty. Where my mind goes is, who are these other Gabriel Fernandezes out there, these unknowns that we'll never ever hear about?
There's so many of them.
This isn't just a unique one-off case. I have to stress that to you. If you think that this is a rarity, it's not.
It really isn't. And this was going to be part of a what's happening in California type episode, but there was just so much information about Gabriel's case So we had to make it standalone.
I felt like it deserved its own episode
Yes.
for sure.
And in doing more research, I uncovered other cases that are just like Gabriel's. So we're going to have a, what the hell is happening in California episode soon, just so you know.
And if you are listening on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. This is the best way to support our channel, to raise our platform, to ensure that we can get these cases, these forgotten cases, these not very well covered cases out to as many people as possible as they should be. We also have a very wonderful...
On Prime Crime.
I know people are going to say, well, what's happened in the last 2 years? Fair question. We don't have many answers to many questions.
The curious disappearance of a young girl leaves a community and the nation reeling with intrigue.
Show me your hands.
The bizarre circumstances surrounding her father begins to draw intense scrutiny.
Can you assure me that your daughter's okay? Yeah. Is she with family? Can you just answer me? I'm done answering the question. If you want to arrest me,
as investigators grapple with the unthinkable.
can you tell me that she's alive?
You're gonna play the same board games that you played with me the other day.
This isn't gonna go anywhere. Like, this isn't gonna stop. So either get on the bus now or get run over.
Hey there, everybody, I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime, where we break down the most compelling and memorable true crime cases from across the country. Who was reported missing by her birth mother, 31-year-old Crystal Sorey, about a month earlier.
Manchester police became aware of this week, and I know people are going to say, well, here it is, 2021, almost 2022. What's happened in the last 2 years? Fair question, all right? That's why I'm here today, because we don't have many answers.
Harmony's mother, Crystal, you can only imagine what had been going through her mind. We think about investigations working on a timeline. If the last time she is seen was back in 2019, what has happened all these months afterwards? Where could she be?
To understand how we got here, we need to know a little bit more about the sordid history of Harmony's family.
By all accounts, Harmony was one of the sweetest girls that you could have met. Harmony loved Minnie Mouse. She was a bright girl, a vibrant girl. She was born in June of 2014 to Adam Montgomery and Crystal Sorey, but they separated not too long after her birth.
Both these individuals have got histories of drug abuse. Within roughly a year, 2 years of Harmony being born, her dad, Adam, was actually imprisoned. So Crystal has custody, but because of problems with drug abuse, social services saw fit to take Harmony out of Crystal's household and placed her into the foster care system. Adam gets out of prison and he floats around a bit.
Eventually, Adam made the decision that he wanted custody of Harmony back, so he went through the process and obtained that custody.
Crystal wound up in a drug rehab center, trying to get her life back on track. While she was there was sporadic contact with Harmony. The last contact was Easter of 2019, where she was allowed to have a video visit with Harmony. Adam was married to Kayla Montgomery. The problem with Kayla, though, is that Kayla, just like Crystal, and just like Adam Montgomery, had a problem with drug dependency.
Adam started to cut off contact with Crystal. He would block Crystal on social media, block her phone number. There were times when she actually came up to Manchester because she was living in Massachusetts to look for Harmony.
However, Crystal says she searched for months and was unable to find 31-year-old Adam Montgomery or her daughter. As detectives work to locate Adam to talk with him about Harmony's disappearance, they first speak with his then wife, 31-year-old Kayla Montgomery.
Police said, hey, we need to talk to Adam. Do you know where we can find him? And that sort of started the chain of dominoes.
At this point, time is of the essence, but given Adam's track record, he's proving tough to find.
During this time frame, COVID's going on, a lot of shutdowns are happening, people aren't seeing family much. The biggest factor is the dad being so much of a transient, he's going to be hard to track down.
Yet just hours after speaking with Kayla, police stumble upon Adam and his new girlfriend in Manchester.
I got you, I can pull the lead. We make contact right now. Show me your hands. Keep your hands where I can see them. Step on out. What's going on? What's your name, my man?
What? Adam. Law enforcement discovers Adam in kind of like a park area, sleeping in his car.
You have anything on you?
No.
All right, come right over here.
What's wrong?
I'm just gonna pat you down, make sure you don't have any weapons.
What's going on? What's the problem? First and foremost, what they realize is Adam's there, his new girlfriend's there, his other kids are there, but guess who's not there? Harmony.
They don't ask about Harmony right away, but they keep Adam talking as they wait for other investigators to arrive.
You still? I haven't for a while. I mean, you don't look like you're torn up. My sergeant knows you. Apparently you used to rip and run, and, you know, you've been nothing but cooperative with me. All right? And I appreciate that. I just want to talk to you. You know, it might behoove you to answer some of their questions, you know?
Some may say he was dealt a bad hand. He did suffer from drug addiction, and he had some run-ins with the law, criminal history. But at different times, he stood up and showed that he wanted to take care of his family. In fact, at one point, Adam Montgomery even tried to help himself. He voluntarily checked himself into rehab.
I haven't seen you in a long, long time.
Okay, what's going on?
We got a couple detectives that are coming down to talk to you.
Okay. For what?
People are wondering where Harmony is.
Yeah, we want to talk to him. Can I just get a cigarette, please?
What we want to do is try to find out who was the last person to see them and start asking, where was she? Where were you guys living at the time?
People are concerned. I'm not talking to the police about nothing. Am I under arrest?
Right now you're being detained, yes. Not under arrest, but you're being detained.
Any particular reason you don't want to talk to them? What's that?
Should I call a lawyer?
The spotlight narrows on Adam Montgomery as investigators begin to question him over the disappearance of his daughter Harmony. But coming up, he's proving to not be much help.
Why are you so concerned that I want to check on your daughter? I have nothing else to say, Tom. You guys want to arrest me?
Giving Tuesday is a global effort that encourages people to do good.
So today, I'm asking you to join with us and focus.
I don't understand. Like, what's all this about then? Five cruises so
Guys are
much.
just driving around looking.
Yeah, I'm doing something wrong.
December 31st, 2021, Manchester, New Hampshire. Police are questioning Adam Montgomery about the disappearance of his daughter, 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery, who hasn't been seen in over 2 years. Harmony is legally supposed to be in Adam's custody, but she's nowhere to be found, and Adam's evasiveness is becoming increasingly worrisome.
Hey, it's not. Look, oh wait, am I under arrest? No, you're not. You're not being warranted. All right, I got nothing to say. Adam, right? Montgomery. Yeah. So hey, man, the only thing we're trying to figure out is where Harmony is. Okay. You're not in trouble.
They established a rapport with him initially. They've spoken to him in the past. He's known in the area. But their goal here is to try to find Harmony.
Where's your daughter so we can check on her and make sure that she's okay? Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys. So you don't care if your daughter's okay? I do. Listen, I have nothing to say. Is your daughter... If I'm under arrest, you guys can arrest me? I'm not saying you're under arrest. Okay, I have nothing to say then. You just don't care how your daughter is. I do. Obviously, I do. My kid. Yeah. Not all my kids.
The most interesting part to this is Adam's reaction to their questions. It's not like, oh my God, I've been looking for her too. Can you please help me find her? His reaction is, am I under arrest?
You have custody of her, right? Right. So what would you be doing wrong if you have custody of her and she's in a safe place? You know what I mean?
Police have to consider. Maybe the child just sort of wandered off. Maybe the child was kidnapped by a stranger. Maybe Harmony had gone to live with other family. And these were all avenues that police had to look at, all through this lens of 2 years in the past.
So I just need to know that she's okay. If she's okay, I can say, hey, DCYF, she's fine. I have nothing else to say. Can you assure me that your daughter's okay? Yeah. Do you know where she is? Yeah. Okay. Is she with family? Can you just answer me? I'm done answering questions. If you want to arrest me, arrest me.
The police were having a very difficult time kind of penetrating the shell that Adam Montgomery has around him. And he has it around him from long years of experience with interacting with the police.
You've been around the block. You're not in. I'm under arrest. I'm under arrest. I told you you're under arrest. All right, so I don't like you going around. I don't go then. I need to know that you saw your daughter alive recently. When's the last time? Recently? Why not? You're her dad. You love your kid, right? Yeah. So why the f did you see your kid? I haven't been around here, man. I've been in Maine.
Adam's overall response is, what am I supposed to do? There's no action for me to take. I don't know where she is, so I can't give you anything else. I think the sticking point for these officers was, Adam, why aren't you upset?
You see why we're concerned. Nobody's seen her.
I get that, but I have nothing to say. So, like, either you guys are going to arrest me or not. I'm not under arrest, and I would like to go. That's it. Just sad, man, that I can't even check on your daughter. She's sure she's okay. Okay, I have nothing else. Like, you're telling me she's okay, but I want to see her.
But when it comes to discussing Harmony's mother, Crystal, Adam finally opens up.
Your ex, Crystal, how do you talk to her? She's, like, not mad at you. She's just kind of concerned. She hasn't seen her kid. She's crazy. When's the last time you had to talk to her? 2 years ago. What happened 2 years ago? You guys stopped talking. I don't even want to say it. What did you guys set like another blowout?
No, I kind of Florida. Being on probation.
She wanted to see her kid. I let her see her. It's just not a good visit. I get that. I don't know what to say, John. Right? Well, hey, if she did something wrong, I want to know. if Crystal's like doing something stupid? Like I don't know that.
She's supposed to be with Crystal.
So she's supposed to be with Crystal.
Yeah.
So if she's supposed to be with Crystal, where? Help me out. If Crystal screwed up, I need to know that.
I don't know. I can't say nothing else. I have no idea.
He's fumbling around a decent amount, but he basically says she's with her birth mom, and then kind of his defensive tactics come up.
If she's supposed to be with Crystal, I need some ideas of like what the hell Crystal did to you. You're telling me that you didn't. You're telling me she's fine. Right? That's what you told me.
Yep.
Okay. You know that she's not dead.
I got nothing else to say, man. Am I under arrest?
Dude, how many times have you asked that?
Well, come on, John, because I want to go. Go talk to Crystal.
I did talk to her.
Go talk to her again.
Interestingly enough, he responds that she's okay, she's with her mom. But Crystal is the one that's kind of set the wheels in motion here.
I got it, Coach! I got it! Getting your greens shouldn't make a mess. Meet Groons, a daily pack of 8 delicious gummies filled with all the essential vitamins, minerals, and superfoods you need to thrive. Jumpstart your journey to comprehensive health with Groons.
So this is pretty emotional for me. I've been trying to get my credit score over 700 and erase all the collections from my record for literally 5 years now.
Though Adam seems hesitant, he does give some indication of where Harmony could be. But is he telling the truth?
I lost my house.
Which house?
On Guilford Street, and it was like right around Thanksgiving sometime. Okay. 2 years ago.
What year?
2019. Sheriffs came, threw us out, and Crystal came and picked her up.
Kayla had previously told police this story that 2 days after Thanksgiving in 2019, Adam dropped her off at work at the start of her shift in the morning. Adam said, I'm going to be returning Harmony to her mother, to Crystal. Then when Kayla came out of work and Adam picked her up, Harmony was no longer there.
Why did you tell me that? You had nothing to do with this?
Because the way you guys are asking me questions,
You can promise me that I'm not doing
the way you're asking me it, and it just seems
it. Did something happen to her? People got scared and she's like, dead? No.
He kind of dances around verbally with them. It seems like he doesn't want them getting any further into his world.
Dude, my kid was missing 2 years. Like, I'd be the first one to start kicking doors. And I think if you knew somebody hurt your kid, you'd be ripping their head off.
Right, that's why I'm saying, like, up until right now, I had no idea she was missing.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to anybody. Like, my mind is exploding.
The police and Adam part ways without any substantial revelations, and without much new information, officials raise the bar in the search for Harmony Montgomery.
The Manchester Crime Line is offering $2,500 reward for tips that lead to Harmony being found. Additionally, local businessmen have also...
No one had seen Harmony.
Up next, investigators catch wind of major evidence that might steer them towards the truth.
I don't want you to get tied into something if you didn't do anything wrong. And if you can tell me that you didn't do anything wrong, then I want to believe you. I got nothing else to say.
Hey guys, we really wanted to bring you this story about Harmony Montgomery and bring exposure about what happened to her and her daughter.
There are a lot of worried people and scared people right now in the community. I don't want you to be painted as a monster. Well, that's what you guys are already doing.
Adam Montgomery is arrested, but it's not for Harmony's disappearance.
You understand what the charges are, right? Second-degree assault, right? Yep. Okay. There's also an endangering the welfare charge. Okay. And interference with custody. The second-degree assault charge, what is this referring to? Well, your daughter had some injuries that you know about when you lived on Guilford Street. What are you referring to? Well, you were there, I wasn't, right? What are you referring to? Marks that were left on her by you. Absolutely not.
Much like the initial interaction in the park, Adam's demeanor is pretty blasé throughout. The time he gets fired up the most is when police are basically telling him that he did something bad to his daughter, talking about the assault.
What you just said to me, you guys are completely out of line. Okay, but so explain to me, how are we out of line? I have nothing to explain. Okay, but wouldn't you rather explain it so we can make sense of it than just have other people's side of the story?
They're not there necessarily to explore the circumstances around that assault. What they are hoping for is that he's going to make some kind of spontaneous admission about his involvement in the disappearance of Harmony.
Do you know that the reward is about $40,000 to find where your daughter is right now? Okay. When you start throwing money around like that, people come out of the woodwork that you would never expect.
This case is now kind of taken on a life of its own. The media is aware, the locals are aware, the politicians are aware.
Yeah,
You're sitting there telling me that right off the rip that there was something wrong with my daughter because of me. No, that's.
So if your daughter had marks on her at some point when you lived over there, how would you explain those?
I would love to know when that marks were there because DCYF came to my house multiple times and closed the case.
They say, we're not saying you hit her with a bat or anything like that, but we did hear that she had a black eye. And Adam says, well, I didn't do that. That's not what happened.
If there was significant marks like you're referring to, I believe they would have flagged something at that point and they would have said something. They would have came there and seen that the kids were well taken care of. All the kids loved being at the house with me. For you to sit there and say that it was inflicted because of me.
What's just going on over here? Your daughter had a mark on her face that people, multiple people, have told us was inflicted by you. This is your time to tell me, kind of explain that. You know, if you're saying this was a mistake or this was
I don't even know what you're referring to.
You don't recall your daughter ever having a mark on her face?
He says Child Services showed up to do an investigation. And after going there multiple times, they deemed that it was a safe location and place for the children to be.
Why did DCYF start listening to you guys?
Between me and my wife and Kevin, we were supposed to pay the bills. He didn't pay the electric bill and he took it and moved out. DCYF showed up and the police showed up because they said that we were unfit to have the children at the house because there was no electricity in the house. Everything was fine. The police showed up, seeing that the kids was fine, there was nothing wrong with them. The DCYF showed up and they left.
Eventually, the sheriff's department came along, evicted the people who were there. The electricity was shut off for a time. Adam and Kayla and the children were living there with just a generator for power. And Adam and Kayla and the children, including Harmony, started to live out of their car.
You know what, man? I don't even want to talk anymore. This is just beating around the bush, man. It just seems a little too silly to me.
Well, I'm trying to figure out who can substantiate your claims that there's, you're not this, monster of a person that either DCYF made you out to be or your family who you didn't get along with.
Adam's story doesn't seem to be adding up, and when he's called out on it, he blows a fuse.
There's some discrepancies between what you're telling us and what other people are telling us. Why is it that you refuse to talk about her every time we bring her up?
Because you guys are just sitting here beating a bush. It's over and over. You guys asked me what happened the other day. I told you what happened.
You were going to tell us the other day.
It was just a charade. Yep. No, don't worry about it. You're not under arrest, and I'll come up with
So this is the Dermaval, but officially it is called a fibroblast plasma pen. And with this device, you can
The thing about police and investigators in particular, when you blow them off and you do not give them direct information, that makes any investigator worth their salt. It makes them want to dig deeper and harder because what's at stake here is the life of a child.
Can you make me a promise? Man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
You're going to play the same word games that you played with me the other day.
It's not word games.
I got nothing else
we
to
care about. We want to know. This isn't gonna go anywhere. This isn't gonna stop. So either get on the bus now or get run over.
I got nothing else to say. I want to live.
It was at this point that the police knew that they were on the right track.
Adam Montgomery is charged with second-degree assault for allegedly hitting Harmony years prior, and his wife, Kayla Montgomery, is facing charges of her own in relation to this young girl.
Police had identified roughly when Harmony had disappeared, and specifically when she was no longer living with Adam and Kayla. Kayla was continuing to represent to the state offices that they did have Harmony with them, and she was charged with various offenses relating to theft of benefits. Kayla was receiving food stamps and other benefits from the state.
But there's still not a clear picture of where Harmony Montgomery could be.
The investigators don't have a starting point. So they spend the next couple of months looking for information. You see the reward in this case skyrocket. Now imagine everybody that's going to try and come out of the woodworks and give anything they know for $150,000. That's the hope.
A monument.
An innocent child who deserves to be brought home to her family and friends.
Members of the Manchester Police Department, the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI have devoted thousands of hours gathering evidence and pursuing numerous leads. All of these efforts have led us to conclude that Harmony Montgomery was murdered.
But what evidence do authorities have against Adam Montgomery? And one key piece of evidence is still missing: Harmony herself. With no body or remains yet discovered, do officials have enough to charge her father with murder? And will Harmony ever be found?
When you piece everything together, I think that was enough for them to say, we have to escalate this investigation. We have to move it up a notch.
believe that you're releasing an inaccurate story. I think you're trying to put the paper as what
New Hampshire detectives are investigating the disappearance of 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery, who hasn't been seen in over 2 years. In October 2022, authorities announce a major update, bringing this long saga to a devastating conclusion.
Earlier this morning, Adam Montgomery was arrested for the murder of Harmony Montgomery in 2019. Specifically, Mr. Montgomery has been charged with second-degree murder for repeatedly striking Harmony in the head with a closed fist in Manchester on or about December 7, 2019. Falsifying physical evidence, abuse of corpse, and tampering with witnesses or informants.
We don't have Harmony's body. We don't have her remains. How in the world can we actually come up with a cause of death? It becomes speculation. What we do know is that Harmony was witnessed to have been struck by Adam.
Adam Montgomery, Harmony's own father, faces a possible life sentence when he is officially charged with second-degree murder, and it's what happens after he's charged that unfortunately confirms investigators' suspicions.
That jail phone call almost brings the whole investigation full circle. Here's Adam on the phone telling the person he's speaking to that it's a waste of time for police to be looking for her. You know, that says two things. It says that whatever he did to her, wherever he put her, he's confident that it's somewhere really good, that the police aren't going to be able to find her without his help. But it also just goes to not caring.
More than 4 years after Harmony Montgomery's death, and even still without a body or remains, Adam
was present for jury selection. But then when it came time for trial to actually start, Adam refused to appear. Another thing Adam did at the beginning of trial, he admitted to the abuse of a corpse and falsifying physical evidence charge. He didn't plead guilty to it, which is what a lot of people think, but he basically just conceded. He said, yep, the state has enough evidence. It was probably the best strategic move he could have made in the face of a very strong case.
The prosecution said that's not enough. We still believe that you were responsible for her death.
It's then that the gruesome details of what allegedly happened to young Harmony Montgomery are revealed, and prosecutors paint a chilling picture of unimaginable cruelty.
Where is Harmony Montgomery? Where is Harmony? When people across this nation were looking for Harmony, there's one person who is not. Her biological father. He was the only person in this world who knows where Harmony is, who butchered her body, and who disposed of her like yesterday's trash.
Kayla was there, she was a witness, and she essentially told police, I saw Adam murder Harmony. The information that Kayla gave was essentially that Harmony had been having bathroom accidents in the car, and Adam snapped.
For 2 years, that man got away with murder. And so he went to great lengths to cover up his crime. He carried her body with him for months, and he discarded her with zero appreciation for the life that he'd taken. And in the months that followed, he beat, he injured, he terrorized the only witness to his crime. She was his loose end, Kayla Montgomery, his wife.
She wouldn't let us know when she had to use the bathroom, and so she was peeing in the car.
How was the defendant responding when she had these accidents?
Getting angry. He would smack her in the face, or on her leg, or in her hand.
The vessels in the brain are very delicate. Depending upon the amount of force that is applied, you can have these events where the brain literally slams up against one side of the skull. These little vessels, so delicate, can be easily broken.
December 7th of 2019.
Yeah.
Does that day stand out to you?
Yes.
Why?
Since the date that Harmony passed away.
What happened when she had that accident, first thing in the morning?
Adam repetitively kept punching her in the head.
How many times did he hit her?
I can't count, I don't know.
Did the defendant say anything to Harmony?
Told her to shut the up. Stop crying.
All it takes is one final furious blow to her head, and suddenly you've got a bleed that occurs within the brain.
Did he try to help Harmony while he was striking her?
Yes, but he gave me this look that was like evil. His crazy eyes, like he was gonna hit me.
When it came to hiding Harmony's body, Kayla says Adam went to extreme lengths to cover up what happened.
He took the duffel bag that was in the trunk and
In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Rubles Learn to Crochet kit and seeing if it is as easy as they claim. Now, I am a crochet...
and put her in the duffel bag.
Did you attempt to get away, to run?
No,
Why not?
because they had the 2 other kids and I was scared.
Kayla, why stay with someone that does this to you?
Yes, I was scared. And I still cared about him.
She and Adam basically kept Harmony's body with them for a period of approximately 3 months as they moved from place to place.
Where was Harmony's body at the time that you were living in that car?
In the trunk of the car.
And what did he do with that duffel bag when you got to your aunt's house?
He placed it under the porch.
What did he do with Harmony's body when you arrived at your mother's home?
He put the duffel bag in the cooler.
Where did he go after living with your mother?
To the fit shelter, families in transition. Adam put her in the ceiling.
Lo and behold, as soon as they open up the ceiling and the detective pops his head up into the ceiling, he was able to see on top of the ceiling panel some staining. That staining was confirmed to be Harmony's blood and also confirmed to be Harmony's DNA.
One of the key elements here are going to be a succession of witnesses. You've got this fingerprint expert that comes on the stand who talks about the fingerprints and the handprints that have been left behind.
Were you able to identify the person that deposited that print?
Yes, I was.
And who was it identified?
Adam Montgomery.
That goes to verifying what Kayla had at least spoken to at one point in time, that she had been placed in the ceiling.
But remember, Adam took responsibility for everything after she was deceased. He says, yes, I was responsible for Harmony's care, and something clearly happened to her on my watch, but I didn't kill her.
What happened when those maintenance workers came?
Adam took her back down from out of the ceiling. He put her in a trash bag.
Did the defendant begin discussing disposing of Harmony?
Yes.
And what was his plan? What was his idea for getting rid of her?
To use lime and dismember her.
Did the defendant tell you where he planned to dump Harmony's body?
No.
To this day, we don't have a clue as to where this precious little angel's body is. Some people speculate that perhaps Harmony's body lay at the bottom of a saltwater marsh right outside of Revere, Massachusetts.
Police learned in March of 2020. Adam had asked a friend to rent a U-Haul. She and Adam had Harmony's body with them for that entire time from December 2019 to March of 2020. Police were able to identify the specific U-Haul that was rented, checked it with the Massachusetts toll system, and were actually able to see that on the night that Adam disposed of Harmony's remains, he was near Boston. That gave probably the best information we have to date about where Harmony's remains might actually be.
But the defense has their own theory of who's responsible for killing Harmony, and it isn't Adam.
Adam Montgomery did not cause Harmony's death. Kayla Montgomery was the last person to see Harmony alive and know how Harmony died.
Adam's attorneys puts forward this idea that maybe Kayla, in fact, murdered Harmony, and Adam did not do it himself, but he participated in covering it up.
Adam's attorneys present Kayla's lying. Now, there's a lot of things that Kayla said that police had been able to corroborate, but in the moment, there were 2 adults in that car, Adam and Kayla. There was no way to corroborate that information.
I'm not pretending that Adam isn't innocent here. Adam is not. He and Kayla covered up Harmony's death. He and Kayla moved Harmony's body from place to place to keep it hidden, and then permanently hid her remains.
The fact is, to the best of my knowledge, she doesn't necessarily have a violent history. But by her own admission, she's deceptive, she's a thief, and she's a drug user.
The defendant was hoping that the jury would say, I have enough doubt in my mind that I'm not going to find Adam guilty of this murder because it could have been somebody else.
Have you ever seen a pair of glasses that don't need to be replaced after they are fitted? If you need glasses, whether you are presbyopic or myopic, this is the one for you.
The defense calls no witnesses, but they take their time cross-examining Kayla Montgomery.
Several statements that you gave to the police and...
On Prime Crime.
We can do this the nice way, or we can do it the hard way, and I can release my bipolar. I eat high school bullies
When a father goes missing, it's a case unlike any other.
We didn't know what condition Aaron was in. There was blood spatter, a broken light fixture, so they knew something violent had occurred there.
Through wild
You know, it's always funny when people think they finna get that sugar daddy experience and it just don't work out for them. You never know who could be out here scamming on that. Let's go ahead and get into it, man.
Y'all would literally not believe what this fucking happened to me on this date. I'm gonna have to call y'all when I get in the car. Yeah, what he talking about? Okay, so I'm back in the crib. Y'all would not believe what just happened. Like, I literally went on a date with a guy, and let's just say, mind you, he's sitting right next to me. I ordered what I want. He didn't want to order anything because he ate, so he just ordered a drink. I ordered what I.
That's real nigga tactic number one. If you ain't got that bread and you got a little dime piece that you trying to impress, you ain't gonna eat nothing. You just gonna pay for it. Don't worry about what I'm eating. Just enjoy your meal.
I wanted, and he hears it clearly because he's right next to me. The food comes. He started making all these comments. Oh, you ordered that? Oh, you gonna eat all that? Mind you, I told him that my friend flew into town and that after dinner I was gonna go see her because she wanted me to pull up on her or whatever. He's like, did you order some food for your friend? He was like, if I wasn't here, would you order all that? Baby, you think I can't afford a meal? I said, honestly, if you wasn't here, I would have still ordered like this.
Somebody commented on my last video saying it looks like I'm throwing paper into my washing machine. This is not paper.
This is how you. With my friends, this is how I eat when I'm by myself. Crazy.
That's cap and shit, and I'm sorry about that pause, but that's cap and shit. I ain't even gonna lie to you, bro. And I know this from experience, bro. How people order when they on a date and they not paying compared to how they order when they paying, especially at a high-end restaurant. Don't even hit me with that cap, nigga. You know if that was you, you might have been getting some brag steaks and water.
But the kicker is, this man said, "Oh, I'm gonna go." I said, "Okay." He lays down $100, walks off. Mind you, he called us a black truck to dinner, so I rode with him in an Uber. He left. He didn't say anything besides "I'ma go," and then set the money down and then dipped off. He didn't ask if I needed a ride, how was I gonna get home. He didn't ask what the bill was. Nothing. Mind you, this is a 45-year-old man, grown ass Nigerian man. Actually,
don't start. That's how you know it's finna get toxic when they start saying grown ass man. He wasn't no grown ass 45-year-old when you got with him. That sugar daddy stimulus package ain't always gonna work. You got some sugar daddies out here that's gonna do everything they can with as much least amount of output as possible. Nigga, it's called efficiency.
let's
Fuck, nigga.
talk about it. Let me put the light on.
45 is bonkers.
Let's actually talk about it, okay? I ordered my drink. He ordered his drink. I ordered a half a dozen oysters. I want to say maybe that's around like...
No, that's a red flag. If Shorty come up and immediately go for the oysters, you know what time it is, nigga. That's that. If she's not an OnlyFans girl, but I'm saying that's that OnlyFans girl premium packages, them oysters, gang. I ain't gonna hold you.
$15 to $18, I think. We were at Eddie V's. I can't remember how much.
Oh, Eddie V's expensive.
And that's normally how much it would be. After that, he said that he wasn't hungry. He didn't want to eat. I ordered...
Shit, a nigga like me, we ain't going to Eddie V's. We going to Lil C's, nigga. $5 for the piece of that.
I ordered lamb chops. Mind you, prior to this date, I told him that I wanted steak. Like, I said I was in the mood for, like, steak and, like, asparagus, mac and cheese. Like, I was saying all this. So it's not nothing that was just, you know.
Come on, bruh.
I ordered lamb chops, mac and cheese, Brussels sprouts, and crab fried rice. Half sizes.
Okay. Bro, no, oysters, crabs, whatever the fuck you just said, that's a meal for Shaquille O'Neal, nigga. That ain't no meal for you over-ordering type shit. And you lucky he foot the bill on that. A lot of niggas, shit, they went to that bathroom and had you looking at that goddamn waiter like, what you need for this type shit.
I'm
Like,
a quick story time because I don't know what some of y'all problems are, making it seem like what I ordered was outrageous. This man took me to a steakhouse, okay? Keep that in mind. This is a dinner date. What do you do at dinner? You eat dinner. I told him that, like, I wanted steak, asparagus, like, I wanted, like, the full, you mean. So he knew. Mind you, he picked the restaurant. I didn't pick it. He picked the restaurant, okay? So, and again, I got the lamb chops. The lamb chops are cheaper than the steak itself. That's number one. So if I would have got the steak and an appetizer or two, it would have added up to what the hell I ordered anyway. And also, I don't know.
Bro, oysters, lamb chops, steak, mashed potatoes, and that's the thing too. If someone invites you out on a date and they using their tab, and it's just for everybody, show humility type shit. Get something. I'm not saying starve yourself, but don't go crazy, dog. You over here ordering lamb chops, steak, nigga. This is not a 5-star retreat, my nigga. Just because you got a sugar daddy don't mean you finna run it up like that. I mean, shit, you look good, but you gotta chill, shorty, chill.
About y'all, have some standards, okay? If you're taking me to a steakhouse, I'm gonna order what I want. Not only because it's like you're paying for it, but I can afford what I want to eat, okay? And there's nothing wrong if you can't afford it, but I can afford it. So I'm not about to starve myself or act like I don't want to eat something because a guy took me on a date. I've never experienced something like that. So again, like when I say it's the worst day ever, it is because I've never
You must not have been familiar with Nigerians. They smart with their money. Don't get it twisted. Nigerians, they smart. They got the money, but don't think just because he's Nigerian and 45, he gonna spend it on you. I promise you, he won't.
And I never had a man walk out on me at dinner on a date. Like basically the tab, because you didn't even ask how much the tab was. Like, so that was crazy. It was a few red flags, like me asking him, like, I had hinted, I was like, so what are you gonna eat? And he just was like, oh, I'm not hungry, like I ate. And I was like, why would you eat? We had dinner plans. He was like, because I have a 7-year-old. Like he got smart, he was like, because I have a 7-year-old. Mind you, this man been calling me all day, making sure I'm going on this date, making sure I'm okay. He wanted to send me food earlier.
Wait, what's the problem with talking about his 7-year-old? I don't get that. That's a valid contention. Do you want him to starve his 7-year-old to feed your ass? You better explain this. You better explain.
He was letting me know that we had to push our date back a little bit because he still had his son and he had to wait a little bit longer to drop his son off to his ex-wife. Cool, no biggie. So why would you eat knowing that we had dinner plans? I digress. That was like the second red flag. I'm not even gonna say what the other one was. But as soon as, mind you, he's sitting right next to me. So when I order all my food, he's hearing it. He's literally right next to me. We sat at the bar because he's 6'8" and he didn't want to sit at a table because like his legs and his knees or whatever. Had no problem with that. So he's literally sitting directly next to me. He's hearing what I'm saying. I order my food, no comment. My food comes out, all these comments. And it just wasn't 1 or 2 comments. It was repeated comments back to back to back, where it was like, even the bartender was kind of like looking over because it's like, you're making me feel uncomfortable.
I mean, honestly, me personally, if I didn't feel comfortable with what she was ordering, I'll go ahead and foot the bill, and after that, just keep it pushing. But that's a valid contention. I mean, what you were ordering, you talking about lamb chops, steak, mashed potatoes, appetizers, oysters. Bitch, you going crazy. Of course that nigga finna be like, hey, hold on. If that was just you, you wouldn't have ordered that much. You know what I'm saying? It's like if someone tells you, hey, go pick out your Christmas gift, nigga. You get a PS5, a PC, a Xbox One Deluxe. Like, nigga, you can't be doing all that, bro. You can't.
And like, if I was a bigger woman, I would have felt like you was body shaming me. Because why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me if I'm going to eat the food that I ordered? What did I order it for? Why are we on a dinner date? He was like, oh, you order all that? He was like, you going to eat all that? He was like, did you order something for your friend? He was like, if I wasn't here, was you going to order that? And I was like, that's such an interesting comment to make. And then it was like silent for 5 minutes. And then he apologized. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was literally telling him, I was like, yeah, because I'm like, that was very offensive. I was like, I actually feel very disrespected. I was like, that was definitely rude. He was like, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intentions. And I was like, okay. And I was like, and he was telling me, because prior to the food coming out, we had a conversation where I was stating that I don't like dating in Houston. And I was telling him why. He said he didn't like dating in Houston because he felt like women here are just...
Why is it always got to be my city, bro? I was thinking Houston too, bro. Like we already did a video on how Houston is, man. Just across the board, dating, crime. What's going on in Houston? Somebody tell me.
That's like other cities. It's not like Houston. Like, this is the only city that women like money. He was just like, I feel like women just like you for your money. They wanted you to take home on trips and this and that. That was like red flag number 2. Whatever. I'm like, okay. So he was breaking it to me. He was like, yeah, you know, this kind of just happened to my friend. And he took a girl on a date and she ordered all this food and he ended up leaving her. And he was saying, so like, he was like, and I told you, like, I feel like girls be trying to finesse. And I was like, I don't have to finesse you for dinner. I was like, even if you wasn't here, I would have been able to afford this tab myself. I was like, are you implying that you don't want to pay for my food?
Why don't we see no footage, no nothing of you doing that solo? Why you wait till you went with him to go to the steakhouse? Show us the footage of you going to the steakhouse and ordering goddamn oysters, goddamn steak, goddamn macaroni, goddamn potatoes, goddamn... Like, I want to see that, because that's at Eddie V's, nigga, that's finna run you a PS5. The fuck?
Why can't you add collagen to your face using collagen creams? Well, collagen is a large protein, and because our skin acts as a barrier...
He was like, no, that's not what I'm implying. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I would have respected if you would have said, like, you know, explain this to me instead of like telling me, you know, instead of making those remarks. He was like, oh, I just apologize about that. I said, I understand that, but I'm letting you know why I was upset and why I felt the way I felt. So then he was like, yeah, but like, you know, I was like, well, honestly, I was like, if you feel like people are going to finesse you or you have, and he was like, you know, this is probably like some of my trauma from my past and dating. And I was like, I understand that, but I was like, it's not fair for you to project what people did to you onto me. You just met me. I'm not.
No, that's 100% fair. You don't do that. When you're dating someone, you don't project that. But this is the caveat.
told everyone. Rumor around school was that he was in a gang back there before ending up in some trouble that concluded with him being sent to live in Jonesboro. I have no idea how much of that's true, but that was the general consensus. Shadrach was much bigger than most of my 8th grade classmates. He looked like he was older too. I believe he may have been held back a grade, but I'm just not sure how many. He also looked quite tough, but to be honest, during his first year at Nettleton, he was quiet and didn't cause any issues. I actually kind of befriended him at the start, and apart from the fact that he often carried big wads of cash to school, the rumors seemed like nothing more than tall tales. But that was 8th grade. In 9th grade, I met another side of Shadrach Ward. I hadn't really stayed acquainted with Shadrach through our freshman year. I found a friend group that got me into a local youth group and steered away from anything that looked remotely like trouble. In 9th grade, I still had English class with Shadrach. I'll never forget it. It was 6th period, Mrs. Peterson's class. My friend Brandon was also in that class along with a couple of my other friends. These were good friends, but not the type of guys you'd expect to physically defend you if you were in trouble. They were church guys. Oh, they'd call the cops and be your witness for sure, but they weren't the type to ever throw down. Especially not with someone like Shadrach. Well, one day, English class was in the library for some reason. I can't exactly remember why, but I do recall that a school dance was coming up. A luau or Sadie Hawkins or something like that. Anyway, Shadrach was desperate to get this girl in our class to go with him. Her name was Ashley. Ashley was the friend of my uncle's wife's daughter, and she couldn't be less interested in his advances, but Shadrach persisted, completely refusing to take no for an answer. I mean, he hounded this girl over and over until she finally snapped and roared at him to leave her alone. I laughed at him and joked that he got rejected. I thought I was still friendly enough with him to say it in a way that would come across lighthearted, but maybe still get him to chill out. Boy, was I wrong. From that moment, Shadrach Ward turned on me. I mean, he just snapped, and suddenly I was enemy number one. I, the first person to befriend him when he came to our school, was his target. I disrespected him, and I wasn't getting away with it.
Giving Tuesday is a global effort that encourages people to do good.
So today, I'm asking you to join with us in focusing on what
No matter what I did or said, there was no going back. Shadrach delivered threat after threat after threat, but I didn't want any kind of smoke. Yeah, okay, I'd fought in middle school in 5th and 6th grade when I needed to, but that stopped in 7th grade after I got my ass handed to me during football by Jeff McKnight. So I wasn't up for a physical altercation, especially not with potentially a gangster. But my apologies were useless. Shadrach had made up his mind, and after school, I was dead. Well, I survived after school that day. After 7th period, when the bell rang, everything was fine. Shadrach was nowhere near the bus area, so I made it home safe and figured his anger wouldn't carry over to the next day. Wrong again. He held a grudge. The next morning when I got to school before the first bell rang, I saw Shadrach in the school bathroom. We were alone. He was picking his hair in the mirror. I genuinely and sincerely apologized again, but he rejected it, saying, "Ain't nothing to talk about. We gonna see later after 6th period." And that was that. The rest of my day was filled with dreadful acceptance as Shadrach aggressively bumped into me in the halls, tried to trip me, and told me multiple times I was dead meat after 6th period. And it didn't take long for that hour to roll around. In English class, I sat a couple seats up from Shadrach and like one row to the left. Well, boy, did he really try to humiliate me that day. Multiple times when Miss Peterson turned her back, he'd get up from his desk and kick me hard in the legs or the ribs where I sat, and then rush back to his seat as if nothing happened. He thought this was funny. It was like he liked having an audience. And he did have an audience. But these people weren't laughing or cutting up with him. They could just tell that the matter was serious. Me, I never engaged. I was terrified. I just wanted to disappear. But I was not a magician. One of my friends told me just to go tell the teacher, but pride blocked my response. It'd kill me. And not in a joking way. This was like a concerned, worried kind of tone. But I was just kind of hoping that the quieter I was, the more likely it would be that the situation would dissolve. Of course, it didn't. As the 6th hour bell rang, I felt like a dead man walking. While I stood at my locker with most of my classmates digging through theirs, out of nowhere, Shadrach appears and slams my books out of my hands. I pick them up. He does it again. I felt like everyone was watching. I picked my books up one more time, only to have them knocked down again. At that point, I was beyond frustrated. He'd been antagonizing me for 24 hours. A guy I thought at one time was some kind of friend was now about to attack me. My fear faded. I didn't pick my books up again. I just stood straight up and stared back at him. Then he shoved me, I shoved him back. And that's when Shadrach swung. I ducked. It really felt like slow motion. I remember his arm swinging right over with me. I have no idea what possessed me, but the result of that possession ended up in the math teacher's room where Shadrach and I tumbled over desks and tussled on the ground for several minutes. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I bet you got your ass kicked. But when I say this bully was all bark and zero bite, I'm not exaggerating. In defending myself, I left this guy bruised and bloody. I mean, he was spitting up red in the principal's office and I didn't have a mark on my face. He only got one good strike in when he kicked me in the face as I was being pulled off him by two fellow students, Adam and Patrick. And even when that kick landed, I wasn't hurt. The two guys let my arms go and one of them said, "Get him." And I did, to the point where he could barely stand up. At that point, I just put my hands up and said, "Okay, he's done." And that was the end of the fight. After I was escorted into the office, I recall the principal inspecting my face and asking me if Shadrach even punched me. I told him I didn't think so. He asked me if the blood on my shirt was mine. I told him no. He said, "Well, I'll be damned." I guess no one's money was on me to come out ahead against Shadrach. But Shadrach sat in the office all beaten up, still talking about how he was going to kill me. The principal informed him that he already tried that and it didn't work. When I tell you Shadrach Ward was an awful fighter, I can't express how truly shocked I was at his inability to physically handle himself. All the tough talk and the persona he portrayed was a giant facade. It left me wondering if he'd ever actually been in a scrap. You know how when you fight in your dreams and you're super slow or weak, as if you're stuck in the mud or underwater? Well, it was like that. Only I must have been stuck in Shadrach's dream. Or better yet, my nightmare became his. I don't remember if he lost any teeth or whatever, but I definitely still have scars on my knuckles from that day caused by his teeth. Thankfully, several witnesses, including teachers, vouched for my innocence. One of those was the math teacher, Miss Kofer. God rest her soul. She marched straight into the office on a mission proclaiming I only defended myself and nothing more. We were both suspended, of course, because they have to set an example, but my suspension was not put in my record as my response was justified.
Anyone with $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans may qualify for help from National Debt Relief. Minimum payments could literally keep you in debt for decades. $10,000.
Scott Jacob McMillan was born in Pennsylvania on January 26, 2011 to Jillian Tate and Lauren McMillan. His parents weren't married but had been in a relationship for several years. Their older son, who we'll call R, was 4 years old when Scott was born. Scott, who went by the nickname Scotty, had bright red hair, blue eyes, and a sweet smile. His paternal Aunt Tara said he looked a lot like his father and that he was a happy baby who loved his older brother. His mother said he was absolutely adorable and referred to him as her little man. Her sister, Scotty's maternal Aunt Kim, called her little scooter pop and said he was a beautiful, sweet, and innocent little boy. He loved Thomas the Tank Engine and his favorite color was green. Like many toddlers, he loved to snuggle, give kisses, and have tickle fights. He also loved singing in the back seat of his Aunt Kim's car while she was driving.
Jillian seemed excited when she found out she was having another son. September 25th, 2010, she announced her pregnancy by posting an ultrasound photo and the caption, "My baby boy, I can't wait to meet you." A couple months later, she posted another ultrasound with a similar message, this time saying, "My adorable little boy, can't wait to meet him." Though they had been together for more than 4 years, at the time Scotty was born, Jillian and Lauren weren't getting along. He wasn't there to see his baby born, and he wasn't there to take Scotty and Jillian home from the hospital. Instead, Aunt Kim brought them both to her house. Jillian and the boys stayed there for some time after the birth. She posted many photos of newborn baby Scotty on her social media. According to Philadelphia Magazine, Jillian had several social media accounts registered under different names. Many of the images she posted showed her out on the town having fun. Around this time, she often hung out with a new friend named Shannon Taylor. Shannon described the mother as a normal, goofy, everyday, funny girl. Though it was difficult to balance motherhood and her social life, Jillian still managed to make time to go out, and she even listed her religion online as PLUR, which among ravers stands for peace, love, unity, respect. March of 2012, Jillian and Lauren were photographed at a rave dancing together, but by the end of 2013, the couple had officially broken up. He moved out of state to Overland Park, Kansas. After the breakup, Lauren's family didn't see the boys much, but his sister, Scotty's Aunt Tara, got regular updates on the boys through Jillian's social media posts. She said Jillian shared photos of both boys often, and that Jillian really seemed to love those kids. Tara said that her parents had often helped the couple out with money when Lauren and Jillian were together, but on her own, Jillian struggled to support herself and her sons. She sometimes mentioned her financial issues online and even placed an online ad in search of a sugar daddy. In her ad, she mentioned both Scotty and her older son by name, seemingly unaware about how dangerous that can be.
Lead the catch. He had been married to Amber Fellenbaum for several years, and they had an 11-month-old baby girl. Though they were still married and living together in a rundown trailer, they had reportedly ended their relationship and were in the process of getting a divorce. He was a big guy, weighing at about 275 pounds and had a short temper. To recap, Jillian's new sugar daddy was not a catch, was quick to anger, didn't make a lot of money, lived in a rundown mobile home, and was still married. No red flags there. But he and Jillian had an instant connection, and just days after meeting, he moved Jillian and her kids into the mobile home on Hope Lane in West Calm Township, where they joined Amber and his daughter. Her older son was in kindergarten at Rainbow Elementary, but she didn't let the teachers know that they had moved, and she didn't give them their new address. There might have been a brief honeymoon period during early October when they first moved in, but soon the situation for Jillian and both boys turned grim. Gary wanted to be respected, and he felt that wasn't happening, and he lashed out, hitting both boys with an open hand. According to Jillian, he was very manipulative and kept her sleep-deprived and on edge, only allowing her to sleep an hour a night. Now, around this time, her old friend Taylor ran into her at Walmart and noted a big change in Jillian, saying she was pretty rough-looking. She just looked like she didn't care about herself, really.
After only 2 weeks of living with Gary, around mid-October of 2014, Jillian stopped sending the older boy, known as R, to school, and events in the home soon turned even darker. The boys were often confined to a room for long periods of time and weren't even allowed to go to the bathroom. They were unable to hold it any longer. They had to hide any evidence of their waste so they wouldn't get in even more trouble. Instead of using an open hand, Gary began punching the boys with a closed fist and beating them with objects like wooden spoons and a frying pan. R soon realized that the more he fought, the harder he would be beaten. He tried to stay still and quiet so Gary would lose interest. However, Scotty was just too young to understand, and he couldn't stop his cries and squirming, so he became more and more of a target. On several occasions, Gary hung both of the boys upside down by their feet so he could beat them more easily.
Here's why mushrooms are a superfood you need to have. If you're struggling with focus, battling inflammation, or feeling stressed all the time, I'm here to tell you.
Gary's wife Amber saw what was happening, but she did nothing to stop it and never reported it whatsoever. That old daughter was safe as long as Gary had other targets in the home. Jillian, their actual mother, did much worse. She helped, as she referred to it, punish the boys by participating in the beatings and laughing with Gary while they both hit them. One of the saddest parts of the story is that there was a chance to save them. Teachers at our school had never noticed any signs of CA before the family moved in with Gary. They were very concerned when R continued to miss school without any reason. As days turned into weeks, the staff called Jillian and wrote her a letter and finally performed a home visit to the address they had on file. If they had been able to observe R and Scotty, they would have seen the cuts and bruises on both boys and been able to get them help. But Jillian hadn't updated her address on file when she moved, so instead, they left a note taped to the door of the family's previous home.
In early November, the violence on Hope Lane escalated. Though the exact timeline isn't clear, starting on November 2nd, the next 3 days would be brutal. Gary had been busy coming up with new ways to torture the children. He had created a homemade cat-o'-nine-tails whip using thick cords and electrical tape. He'd also scavenged an old metal curtain rod and a strip of aluminum to use as weapons. He covered the sharp edges with tape so he wouldn't hurt his own hands, but left the beating ends sharp and rough. He and Jillian had both been using these items on the boys, but Gary focused more of his attention on Scotty. His brother was forced to watch, and sometimes Gary even made the older boy join in and hit his baby brother too.
The constant beatings took a toll on Scotty's small body. When he woke up on the morning of November 3rd, Scotty either wouldn't or likely couldn't eat the piece of cinnamon toast Jillian made him for breakfast. She and Gary both tried to force him to eat, shoving the toast into his mouth, but Scotty kept spitting it back out. This infuriated Gary, who took it as a sign of disrespect towards him and not a sign that the toddler was likely injured, sick, and in pain from the stress of constant abuse in the home. As Gary's anger rose, he began punching Scotty in the belly and the face. He grabbed the boy and drug him into the bedroom, where he and Jillian continued to punch and hit him. According to Jillian, he then picked Scotty up by his back and slammed him into the wall, leaving a dented impression of his head in the wall. During the beating, Scotty briefly lost consciousness and stopped responding, so the couple put him in a cold shower to wake him up. They were able to revive him, and they took him back to his bedroom. When Scotty woke up the next morning, his face was red and very swollen. Again, Gary tried to force him to eat toast, and again, the toddler was unable to do so. Gary told him he was being disrespectful and punched him so hard he fell out of his chair. Angry, Gary picked the toddler up, put him back in the chair, and pulled out electrical tape. He taped Scotty's feet together and pulled his arms up and taped them to the posts of the chair, so Scotty was stuck to the chair with his arms raised and no way to protect himself. Then Gary punched him repeatedly in the face and belly, causing him to throw up and become unresponsive. Again, Amber saw all of this. Saw the 3-year-old taped to the chair and viciously be beaten. She didn't try to help him, stop Gary, or call for help. Scotty passed out from the pain and damage done to him. Remember, this is a grown man being a tiny 3-year-old boy with all of his might. Gary decided his inability to respond was just more disrespectful behavior. Like they had done the day before, Gary and Jillian drug him into a cold shower to wake him up. This time it didn't work, so they put him in an ice bath. When he still didn't wake up, they changed his clothes and set him on a deflated air mattress in the bedroom and left him there to sleep it off, while blood seeped out of his nose, mouth, and ears visibly. Scotty wasn't sleeping. He was slowly dying. His 6-year-old brother was left to watch it happen to him.
While he lay there, Jillian and Gary decided to go out. They stopped by the local dealership to look at the cars for sale, then ordered pizza to take home for dinner. When they got home, they ate, then had sex and took a nap afterwards. When Jillian finally woke up from her nap at 7:30 p.m., she went to check on Scotty and he wasn't breathing. She screamed and asked someone to call for help.
Finally, homemade Manjaro makes your pants drop in just 1 week. I've developed a 3-ingredient recipe that's 10.
Amber called 911 and police and first responders quickly arrived, but it was too late. Paramedics noted that he wasn't breathing and that he was covered in cuts, bruises, and puncture wounds. They tried to revive him, but he was already gone. They took him at 8 p.m.
One of the first responders who worked on him that night, Katie McDevitt, said that finding him that way was something she could never forget. In an online post directed at the boy, she said, "I remember the looks on everyone's faces after they laid their eyes on you, Scotty. I remember everything about the first and last day I met you. I remember my hands on your little cold body. I remember the color of your hair. I remember just how small you were. All of it. Your story forever changed my life. I am so sorry that your life was cut so short. I'm sorry that I personally couldn't save you. I remember you, Scotty, and I always will. Rest in peace, Scotty McMillan, the little red-headed boy who will be forever in my heart." Police and additional paramedics looked after the other children in the home. The 11-month-old girl had no injuries, but Scotty's older brother showed clear signs of injury in CA. He was taken to the Alfred I. DuPont Hospital for Children in Wilmington, Delaware, about 50 minutes away, where he could receive specialized care. Both children were subsequently placed into protective custody. Police searched the house and found ample evidence of what happened, including the whip, the inflated air mattress Scotty had died on. In addition to all the evidence they found, one thing they didn't find was also telling. In their search of the house, they only found a single photograph of little Scotty. Police questioned all 3 adults, Amber, Jillian, and Gary, and all 3 confessed to their role in his death. Amber admitted she saw what happened, but did nothing until she called 911, and that call came far too late. Jillian said she never punched the boys with a closed fist, but admitted that she helped beat both boys with a wooden spoon, a frying pan, and the whip. According to the police affidavit, During one incident, Gary hung Scott and Ara up by their feet one at a time and beat the boys while they were hanging upside down. Jillian stated that she and Gary were laughing during the incident. She also admitted she saw the wounds and scars on both boys. She blamed the worst injuries on Gary, saying he punched the boys and also committed DV against her. She also told detectives Gary threw Scotty against the wall so hard it caused a hole in the wall. Gary confessed to beating Scotty and his brother. He admitted Scotty was heavily bruised and expressed remorse that his physical assaults caused another's death. He told detectives he didn't call for help when Scotty was unresponsive because he was afraid he would get in trouble with police or CPS. He also told officers this would not have happened if he had just eaten his breakfast.
Gary and Jillian were arrested on November 6th and charged with 16 counts, including first-degree murder, third-degree murder, homicide, aggravated assault, and other related charges. They were held without bail. Amber was arrested on November 7th and charged with 4 counts of CA. Her bail was set for $500,000, and she also remained in jail. When explaining the charges, Chester County District Attorney Thomas Hogan opened by saying, "Let me tell you about an American horror story." He said that while Gary started by just spanking the boys, over a short amount of time it ramped up until it became concentrated, repeated, escalating abuse. He explained, saying, over a 3-day period, Scotty was systematically tortured and beaten to death. He was punched in the face and in the stomach. He was scourged with a homemade whip. He was lashed with a metal rod. He was tied to a chair and beaten. He was tied upside down by his feet and beaten. His head was smashed through a wall. Our ER nurses see a lot of terrible things, but when they saw his body, they wept. He said the community was shocked by the savage nature of the crime, and he said he planned to seek the death penalty for Scotty's murder, pointing out 2 aggravating factors that supported such an extreme punishment: the young age of the victim and the torture he suffered.
Every month, this Airbnb pays me about $2,700 in semi-passive income. Now,
He also said the detectives found no evidence of alcohol or other substance use. They weren't under the influence of anything when they committed the crimes. He said, "This is just evilness. It's an unspeakable act of depravity." He said the medical examiner's office had ruled Scotty's cause of death as multiple blunt force trauma, which caused the internal injuries. Ultimately, he suffered for days without medical attention, and those injuries eventually killed him. His manner of death was ruled a homicide.
In April of 2017, Amber pled guilty to 4 charges of CA. As part of her plea, she agreed to testify against her husband at his trial. At her sentencing hearing, she accepted full responsibility for her actions. Since her arrest, she told the court she had gotten counseling and had been trying to become a better person by practicing her Christian faith. She said, "I fully understand what I did was wrong. If I only had been more involved with what was going on around me, Scotty would be alive today. I am sorry, I did nothing. I failed as a person. Scotty deserves justice." Her attorney requested a sentence of 3 years, but Common Pleas Judge William P. Mahone sentenced her to 6 1/2 to 16 years in prison. That same month, April 2017, Jillian pled guilty to third-degree murder, conspiracy to commit third-degree murder, conspiracy to commit CA, and other associated charges. As part of her plea, she also agreed to testify against Gary as a critical witness. With her plea, she was no longer eligible to receive the death penalty. At her sentencing hearing, she begged the court for leniency. She admitted her guilt and said there was no excuse for her crimes. Virtual prison in my own house. She said, "I wish to God I had my whole life back. If I had never met Gary, then my son Scott would be alive. I am truly repentant. I wish I could take it all back." At the hearing, Assistant District Attorney Michael
Giving Tuesday is a global effort that encourages people to do good. This year, please support Shrine.
Giovanni Jennings was born on October 17, 2017 to mother Elena Jennings and had 2 siblings. He had big brown eyes, long eyelashes, and brown hair. His nickname was Chula, which in this case means cute or cool, and he was. Especially when he smiled so wide, the dimples on both of his cheeks were visible. His mother called him Little Man and said he was her handsome baby boy. In pictures from his early life, he was independent and maybe a little headstrong. Before he could walk, he was already a performer, sticking his tongue out and making faces when his mom tried to take his picture. When he was walking, Elena posted a picture of him carefully aiming the garden hose to spray water in his baby's swimming pool. She wrote, "On a hot day like this, little man is already filling up his pool without mama's help. He sure is too big for 10 months. His stepfather, Esteban Cabrera, said Giovanni was an amazing child who liked to run and play. In a video Esteban posted online, he joked with Giovanni and his brother, asking them to say good morning to the camera. Though he seemed a little shy at first, Giovanni's face lit up when he said good morning, and both boys laughed when Esteban asked them to say the words taco, chimichanga, and chalupa. In that short, silly moment, all three of them were clearly happy.
Say good morning. Say good morning. Say good morning. Say good morning. Say taco. Say taco. Say taco, chulo. Say chimichanga. Say chalupa. Say chalupa. Say taco. Say taco. Say chalupa. Say good morning."
Not much has been made public about Giovanni's early life, but we've pieced together what we could find the best we could. Elena was around 18 years old when she got pregnant and seemed excited for it. She posted online in June of 2017 about turning her life around and getting a job. She said, "Good things happen when you listen to family. I never wanted to listen to my family, especially to my brother." She admitted she grew up too fast, trying to live that adult life way too soon. Didn't get me anywhere. Always wanted to live that adult life, but it didn't go too good. Brother always tried being there for me, trying to help me out in so many ways, trying to get me out the bad life. I regret it. Now I'm in a situation where I need someone there for me that can help me out. I have that. Thankful for him because I really wouldn't be this far if I never, ever listened. My life is getting on track finally. Getting all my stuff together, forgetting about my past, forgetting about all the problems I had before. Finally getting a job where I can earn money and save up and do good for myself. Going to live the life I always wanted. I can and will get there, thanks to him. A few weeks later, she posted a picture of a sonogram. A few months later in October, Giovanni was born.
When he was little, Elena focused on being a good mother. She dressed him up in cute outfits, posted baby pictures, and often mentioned how much she loved him. She said that time seemed to be flying by and that she finally understood why people said their kids grew up too fast. Now, sometime in 2019, she gave birth to a second son. Pictures from 2020 show Giovanni hugging his little brother and playing with him. Though she doesn't mention what she's been through, her posts allude to hard times, and she is again committed to becoming a better person and straightening her life out. Sometime after that, she met Esteban Cabrera, and the two began a serious relationship. They moved into a house in southwest Detroit and lived together as a family. He treated Giovanni and his brother as his sons, and according to his posts on social media, he loved them like his own flesh and blood. Now, sometime in 2022, he and Elena had a daughter together. But over time, they started arguing and their relationship grew strained. In March of 2024, 25-year-old Elena took all the kids and moved out.
It's likely that she started her relationship with Daniel Giacchino around this time, and her relationship with the 32-year-old quickly became serious. Before they met, Daniel was going through difficult times of his own. In 2022, he pled guilty to selling illegal substances and intimidating a witness, and he was sentenced to 2 years on parole. In May of 2023, he was arrested for fleeing an officer while still on parole. And in late 2023, he had been living with his 74-year-old grandmother, Anne, when their house caught fire and burned to the ground. From his comments, it seemed like he had a different girlfriend at this time, not Elena, and she and her kids were living with Anne as well. In early December, a few weeks before Christmas, the house fire left them all homeless. Anne posted the following message on GoFundMe asking for donations. "Hey there, my name is Anne. I'm 74 and this devastates me. It's come to this, but me and my grandson's house burnt down about 2 weeks ago with no rental insurance, and we are having a very difficult time making ends meet and keeping the roof overhead, paying for room and board in a hotel until we could find..."
With a Fingerhut Fetty credit account, every gift order is an opportunity for you to start building your credit history.
Just had puppies right after the fire. We are asking for donations for help to keep a safe roof over our head. It's very cold. It's winter in Michigan and we lost everything. Right now, our main priority is keeping a roof over our head. Any donations will be highly appreciated. God bless you all. I know everything happens for a reason. There will be a light at the end of this tunnel. I don't like asking for help, but please help us. She said they had been able to get help for food and clothes, but no one was able to help with housing. She wasn't able to rent anywhere because her credit score was so low, so they all ended up in a motel. They were supposed to pay about $350 a week to stay there, but according to posts on the GoFundMe site, they had fallen behind on those payments as well. Donations did not pour in. In fact, they only raised a total of $275, not even enough to cover a week-long stay. They asked the owner of the motel to work with them, but he seemed frustrated by the situation. One of the updates to the GoFundMe campaign, they posted pictures of a text conversation with him. It read, "Hi Daniel, I want to help you. I'm willing to be reasonable to help you out till you find a suitable alternative. But I can't have late payments. It's not sustainable. Your grandmom says she has no money to pay, but that's not my fault. After all, I'm only able to provide guests with a roof over their head if they pay on time. It's not a charitable housing. All I ask is timely payments, no complaints, especially about dog noise or about extra people living in the room, etc. Keeping the room clean, following just basic rules that guests sign up for when they first check in. Happy to have you in our motel as long as there's no trouble and payments on time, especially if you find a suitable, reasonable alternative. The only reasonable precondition is payments need to be made on time and no complaints. Follow rules. One more complaint and I'll start to lose business over this, and I can't have that. I personally have zero issues with you. To start with, you should make your payments already. That's basic, even before we get into other things. One more chance. I help you and you help me." The extra people in the room wouldn't be a problem for long. According to another update Daniel made on January 6th, his girlfriend ended their relationship when she and her kids were able to find other housing. He seemed angry and frustrated in the update, saying, and I'll try to read this as cohesively as I can, "That's the beginning of this campaign. It was a whole family, 2 kids, me and my partner and my grandmother and our dogs. Now that mine and my grandma's house burnt down, that my girlfriend was living in with her kids, my girlfriend, torn apart our family and moved on. She has acquired her own house already because she has kids. I feel like we were just being used. Literally got messages of her throwing in my face. That's why I got a house and you don't. I don't know what you want from me now, but I lost a woman I loved and invested in along with those kids in the house fire. And it's like she turned into somebody totally different just before this house fire. We were to get married, wanted kids, were starting businesses together, and had future plans to come to find out. I was just being led on and played, so our update is me and my grandma pretty much have had everything taken from us and are still asking help because right now we're so mentally messed up, I don't know what to do."
Now, I'm sure you're well aware that homelessness is no joke. Maybe you or someone that you know has experienced it at some point. Now, many of us are living one paycheck from the street, and something like a house fire could be disastrous. The issue of homelessness is extremely important to us, and we like to support charities in our area that help with those in need. It's also important for us to work with sponsors. The brain fog that I've experienced with the limited time offer that you can use never
to Quindra Road in southeast Michigan. 3 months later, Elena and her 3 kids moved into the mobile home with Danielle and Ann. Not long after, Giovanni started getting into trouble. Ann also told reporters that Giovanni was put in the corner when he misbehaved. When asked what he had done to deserve such punishment, this is what she said.
"He was being punished in the bedroom.
How was he being punished?
I was told that he was put in the corner.
Why was this child being punished?
He was being real bad. I understand that he was being real bad to his brother. When I was home the one day, I heard her reprimanding him, slapping him, with the belt.
Did you see anything that made you think he was in danger?
No.
In the bedroom Elena shared with Daniel, a corner was set aside to discipline Giovanni, though many might use the word torture instead. In text messages, they referred to it as the corner. This might not sound unusual. Plenty of parents ask their kids to take a time out when they are misbehaving and might ask them to sit in a corner. Apple bought a security camera and mounted it on the wall, pointed it at the corner so they could both monitor him through video on their phones.
And that's how I ditched alcohol bloating for good. I always have a hectic day at work, and usually when I come home, I'm looking for some kind of relief.
A typical timeout for 6-year-old Giovanni would last about 6 minutes, 1 minute for each year of his age. Evidence shows that he spent much longer lengths of time confined to his pen. He even slept in there. He had no bed whatsoever and was forced to sleep on a wooden slat only 11 inches wide and 3 feet long. During his confinement, he wasn't allowed to do anything. He was not even allowed to look out the window without further punishment, and he wasn't safe when he was out of his pen either. When Elena went to work, she left Daniel in charge of the children. According to Giovanni's 4-year-old brother, Daniel encouraged the young children to play with a BB gun and a ghost gun that he owned. Those that don't know, a ghost gun is usually put together from a kit, so it isn't registered and doesn't have a serial number, but it can be just as deadly as a regular weapon. In this case, Daniel's gun was a fully functional 9mm with a laser scope. He also had over 100 rounds of live ammunition, and he encouraged the kids to play with it like it was a toy. Photos found at the home showed Daniel looking on as the children played with the gun and pointed it at each other. In one image, 2 of the kids pointed the gun at another child, and the light from the gun's laser scope can be seen illuminating his raised hand. When he wasn't encouraging violent play, Daniel was being violent himself. Giovanni's brother said Daniel shot him in the leg with a BB gun, and even showed the interviewer the wound caused by the shot. He claimed his brother was shot too. Police collected video evidence to support his statement, and they found holes in the walls near the corner, Giovanni's corner where he was punished, that still had BBs in them. Daniel also allegedly beat Giovanni on several occasions, in addition to confining him. These punishments were given to the 6-year-old for things like having to go to the bathroom, trying to get a drink of water, and trying to get out of the corner.
On July 26, Daniel caught Giovanni committing the crime of looking out the window. Angry that the boy wasn't standing in the corner with his face pressed against the wall, Daniel allegedly decided to make the preschooler stay in the corner by stapling him to the wall. Using a staple gun, Daniel fastened the shoulders of Giovanni's shirt to the wall, wedging his head and face into the corner. Apparently proud of his handiwork, he texted Elena to tell her that he had solved the problem and included a picture of the boy hanging from the wall. They both reportedly thought the situation was funny. The next day on July 27th, Elena said Daniel punched Giovanni in the stomach 3 times, causing the boy to throw up. Over the next 3 days, he kept getting sicker and sicker. Later, Elena would tell police she knew he needed medical help, but she didn't take him to the hospital because she knew the doctors would see all of his injuries and she and Daniel would get into trouble. Now, at around 2:30 p.m. on July 30th, Elena finally called 911 because he had stopped breathing. When first responders arrived at the home on DeQuindra Road, they found him unresponsive with cuts and bruises all over his body. They were able to restart his breathing and rushed him to the nearest hospital. They transferred him, still clinging to life, to Children's Hospital of Michigan's Stilson Specialty Center. His stepfather Esteban was allowed to visit him there. He was horrified to see how badly the little boy had been hurt. He said, "He was so unrecognizable. His head was almost double the size. His eyes were so swollen." He stayed at Giovanni's bedside that night and the next. Around midnight on July 31st, Giovanni died from his injuries. In a post online, Esteban said, "My heart is completely shattered right now. There's no words I have to try to explain the pain it feels to lose a child. My son died in my arms last night. His mom and her new boyfriend beat my 6-year-old son to death. My heart is broken into a million pieces. How can someone do that to a child by his own mother? I hope you rot in hell."
Elena told the police that when she went to work that morning, she had left Giovanni with someone else for the day, and this babysitter must have done something to hurt the boy. Daniel told the police the same thing. Some news reports say the person they blamed was the biological father, but none revealed the name of the person who was accused. Officers tracked down and arrested the suspect, but soon uncovered evidence that he hadn't been anywhere near the boy at the time he was injured, so he has not been named, understandably. Giovanni's younger brother helped police understand what really happened. He was interviewed at Care House. This is an organization that helps interview and provide therapy for child victims of CA. He told the interviewer what he had seen the last day he spent with his brother. He said, "Chulo died all day, and Danny was there." Police soon cleared their first suspect of any wrongdoing and released him. Selena and Daniel had conspired to mislead authorities. They were both arrested and charged with lying to a police officer. This is a felony crime with a sentence of up to 2 years in prison. Because of a previous felony conviction, Daniel was not allowed to own guns or ammunition, so they also charged him with a felony possession of a weapon based on the items found in his home. Elena was questioned again after her arrest and eventually admitted that she saw Daniel punch Giovanni in the stomach about 3 days before his death. These blows are likely what perforated his bowel, allowing intestinal contents to start leaking into his body, which can cause a massive infection, and did in this case. Emergency surgery and antibiotics would have given him a chance at survival, but with no medical help, the infection spread unchecked. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said that investigators spent hundreds of hours going through the wealth of digital evidence on the couple's cell phones, including pictures, videos, and text messages. She alleged that both Daniel and Elena watched video clips of Giovanni confined to the corner, and that they both laughed at the image of the boy stapled to the wall. That and other evidence collected from her cell phone indicated that she was aware of what Daniel was doing to her son. At a press conference about the murder, Prosecutor McDonald said, while that CA sometimes happened while she was at work, she was aware of it and approved of the physical assaults and at times even encouraged Daniel to abuse Giovanni.
I got it, Coach! I got it! Getting your greens shouldn't make a mess. Meet Groons, a daily pack of 8 delicious gummies filled with all the essential vitamins.
On August 9th, the couple were both charged with first-degree murder and first-degree CA. Both charges could result in a sentence of life in prison if